Hello friends, welcome back. My name is Carly and this is Owning Authenticity. In this video, we are continuing on in our journey of deeply understanding and integrating this journey of the Aries North Node. We are coming off of a period, at the time I'm recording this, it's March 2nd, 2024, and we are coming off of a period of the North Node having been sitting at the exact same 16 degrees with Chiron from February 11th through the 25th. And so they have only recently separated so that they're no longer sitting on the same degree. And that was a powerful portal that I will get into here a little bit later in the video. But for this look ahead at this chapter of understanding the Aries North Node, we are specifically going to look at March 9th through May 15th. And why are we doing that? Because that is when Mercury will be in Aries. And so during those entire 68 days, we will have Mercury, Chiron, and the North Node all in Aries, as well as some other planets, the Sun mostly coming through. Venus will have its time in Aries, etc. But for those 68 days, we have Mercury sharing in this journey of deepening into our own spark of life force energy, our courage, our boldness. Mercury in Aries is classically act first, think and explain later, right? We don't even need to worry about those things. Like, why would we? It's also about the things that we are overly ready for. Right? Like Mercury in Aries has an impulsive ability, and I'm not even going to say that that's a shadow, because a lot of times our impulsiveness can be that final push of getting us over whatever fears or shame or whatever it is that's been holding us back. The stories that we can tell ourselves that can loop in our heads like stories on tape, that we're not ready yet. And then Mercury gets to Aries and it's like, oh wait, no, I think I'm overly ready. Mercury in Aries is also really okay, really neutral towards being imperfect, like doesn't really have any expectation of being perfect. And so a lot of times what ends up holding us back from doing things is that it won't be good enough or whatever that kind of story sounds like. Mercury in Aries can just kind of run right past that because like, who cares? It's okay if it's raw and messy. It's okay if I'm the tip of the spear and nobody else understands what I'm doing. I'm the first one through the wall, so to speak. It's a birth of new life. Mercury in Aries, it's a spark of a new mindset and a new pattern opening up for us. And what's really interesting about this is that we typically will see Mercury in a sign for about 3 weeks. When Mercury is going full speed ahead, it spends less than a month in each sign. And then 3 to 4 times a year, because it's so fast, it's faster than any of the other planets. It's even faster than the sun that moves through 1 degree a day. Mercury goes faster than that. So 3 to 4 times a year, we see Mercury station retrograde, and we'll move backwards for a time and then station direct, and then we'll begin moving forward again. So when Mercury gets too far out in front of the sun, that's when retrograde starts, and we got to come back behind the sun, and then we go again. So that's what's happening, is we're happening to have a Mercury retrograde in Aries for the first time since 2018. That was the last time Mercury was retrograde in Aries. So I think this is like super fascinating, extra fitting, considering that we have the North Node here. So you can imagine it doesn't always work out for Mercury to be retrograde in the sign of the North Node. They don't always match up like that. And so the fact that that is happening, especially after, like right after, the North Node and Chiron spent 2 weeks like right there together having their meeting, and now we have Mercury coming through here. Mercury's going to make its initial pass over that 16 degree mark, then it'll go backwards over the 16 degree mark, and then it'll go forwards again. So we have like a mental integration is what it feels like around whatever that North Node and Chiron conjunction unlocked for each of us personally. And so if you look in the description, I did do timestamps for this video because there are going to be a lot of different pieces that I talk about, including the last section will be doing kind of a look ahead at all 12 of the different north nodes. And so no matter what your natal north node is, and you could do it by sign and by house, I have some thoughts that I've prepared as far as like what each individual north node might be getting out of this burst of new life energy that Mercury joining these items in Aries is going to be bringing. So like I mentioned, we have Mercury, North Node, and Chiron all in Aries from March 9th through May 15th, and that works out to 68 days. And the reason for that is that we have Mercury doing its retrograde from April 1st. So that's when Mercury will station retrograde, which just means it slows to a stop and then it's going to look like it's moving backwards through the sky. And it will station retrograde at 27 degrees of Aries. And so this is one of the Mercury retrogrades that is totally confined within one sign. It doesn't always work out like that. Sometimes it'll retrograde back into the sign before. That is not the case here. We have it completely contained within Aries for the full 68 days. And that's a really long time for Mercury to spend in any one sign. So stationing retrograde on the 1st of April, and that retrograde lasts about 3.5 weeks. And so on April 24th, we will have Mercury stationing direct at 15 degrees, and like barely 15 degrees. It goes back to like 1557 or something like that. Like it's just barely touching back into 15, which again, I think is really interesting given that the North Node and Chiron, they did their meeting on 16 degrees. So the retrograde gets just far enough back to where we can have 3 complete passes over that 16 degree mark. So when we get into this part of talking about that 16 degree mark, it was February 11th through the 25th that we had the North Node and Chiron conjunction on that point. And I want to tell just a brief story about my takeaway, and I would love to hear how that period was for you and what takeaway bubbled to the top of your surface. I also have a video called Heart of a Hero that is on that specific transit, so I'll link that in the description box if you haven't seen that yet. Speaking of what's linked in the description box, I also have a playlist for each natal north node, including interpreting all of the 12 natal north nodes for this Aries north node journey. So like even if you're not an Aries north node, I still go through and talk about what is Capricorn North Node getting out of this Aries North Node chapter? What's Pisces North Node getting out of this Aries North Node chapter? And so on. So feel free to explore those playlists. They're linked down below for you. So my main takeaway of the North Node Chiron conjunction, it was very interesting because I realized shortly before it was over, shortly before that, February 25th point came, that I haven't been triggered in a while. Like I realized that like, wow, like have I just healed all my triggers? Like, dude, talk about naive. And then I got triggered, like right at the end of the period of the February 11th through the 25th of North Node and Chiron sitting together. I got triggered by something somebody had said as far as like they were disagreeing with me, and disagreeing with me in a way where basically they were saying that my way was being disrespectful and like this is the respectful way of being. And so, it really doesn't even matter what the triggering experience is. I only give you that just as a little bit of extra context of like possibly how minor the situation was and how minor situations can be, and we still can have that experience of feeling triggered. Like I think each of us has our own hot button issues that really send us into that fight or flight mode, as far as like our fear brain, our amygdala, the backside of our brain, that primal ancient survival brain takes over and starts calling the shots, starts like a fear spiral of thoughts into your system that, you know, I love thinking about the neuroscience of triggers and emotions that, you know, a rush of that kind of chemical through your brain. How long do you think a trigger lasts in your body? Like, you're gonna feel it for guaranteed this amount of time. How long do you think that is? Because I think a lot of people might say, well, at least a day or two, or like I've had triggers that lasted for a week, or whatever the case is. And the truth of the neuroscience is that it's like less than 60 seconds that a trigger will be alive in your body. That like the chemicals that get released from that initial burst of fear, the adrenaline, the cortisol, like whatever it is, the stress hormones that like your body thinks there's danger present, how long does that last? Less than 60 seconds. So to say that you're triggered for a day or a week or whatever it is, it's like, what is that? What does that actually mean? Well, it means that you keep thinking thoughts that are re-triggering you. So you re-trigger and re-trigger and re-trigger and re-trigger. And so the more accurate way of saying it would be to say, instead of I was triggered for a week, I kept re-triggering myself for a week. And so that I drop in there because the cure for a trigger, okay, like part of it is recognizing that it's only going to be about a minute, that this is going to come through. But the thing that it does is that it reminds you, it pulls memories up and out of your body of other times that have felt like this, right? So like other times that someone called me disrespectful, or other times that someone disagreed with me or rejected me or disapproved of my perspective or whatever it was. Like there's kind of a broad umbrella around the trigger of like all kinds of memories start flooding into your system, and every single one of those memories re-triggers you. So that's what's happening as far as like the actual chemistry going on inside your body. And I did something this time, this trigger, that I've never done before, as far as like I realized that my body's go-to move when I get triggered is to numb. Like numb it out, get as much numbing on board as I possibly can, as quickly as possible, because how it felt in my body was like my heart was pounding, my skin was hot, my stomach felt sick, I felt like the back of my neck was sweating, right? Like it's that adrenaline in your system of like fight or flight, like it's fueling you to fend off the predator that's about to bite you on the ass. Except no one's biting me on anything. Like someone said words to me, right? Like that was all it was. And so part of like the first step of recognizing that my normal go-to knee-jerk reaction is to numb it out, that was not what I did. I sat with that desire to numb it out and was very aware that like my hand was reaching, my body was like leaning towards the numbing agent, just come on, just block this back out. This feels like absolute shit, because it does, right? Like it really does not feel good to have cortisol and adrenaline running through your system. Like it's putting you on edge. And so that was step number one, was just even being with myself enough and observing myself enough to recognize, what do I want to do? And what is that knee-jerk reaction? And then the second part was I remembered that like a trigger is only 60 seconds. So like these other thoughts that are coming that are re-triggering me, yes, that's happening. And like that'll keep happening as long as I let my fear brain have the hands on the steering wheel of my thoughts and guiding my thoughts to what it's feeding into my brain. It's feeding me with other signals that are keeping me in that high alert state. And so remembering that it's only 60 seconds and that it's quite possible that more thoughts could come that will re-trigger. And so at that point, I decided to set my timer for 22 minutes, and 22 is the number that I've been meditating to like only very recently, like in the last like week or two before this happened. I had been having like this success with like being in silent meditation that like I'd never had that before. And so I think that's an interesting side note to the story, is that, you know, that week or two, that was during North Node and Chiron. That ability to sit quietly and observe my mental space, right? The point of meditation is not to get your thoughts to stop. It's to have a different relationship with your thoughts, one where you can observe what's going on and just observe, right? The part of you that's observing the fear is not afraid. The part of you that's observing the anxiety is not anxious. The observer is just the watcher. It's just the being with what it is, right? A dear friend told me at the very beginning of my personal meditation journey that meditation is just being with yourself in the same way that you would someone that you really love, right? And I was far enough into my self-love journey where I felt like I loved myself, and yet I still couldn't meditate. I still couldn't go inside of myself. And when they told me that, I was like, it really flipped it for me as far as what if somebody else was telling me this story? What if somebody else was describing these memories that are coming up from my depths? Like, would I run away? Would I just be like, put my fingers in my ears, like numb it back out and be like, you can't tell me this? No, I can be with other people who are in pain, but being with my own pain to where it's so visceral and it's so personal, that was definitely a huge step for me. And that was a couple years ago. And I've had on and off success with like little chunks of silent meditation, like little, like less than 5 minutes. Okay. Like sometimes less than 3 minutes that I can be in there before it feels like someone's taking my skin off. Okay. So I get it. Like if you struggle with silent meditation, like I get it. But during the Chiron North Node conjunction, I was having really good success of like being in silent meditation for like 20 minutes or more and not feeling that way. I was the observer. I was the one watching what was going on and being like, isn't that interesting? And isn't it interesting how like all of my triggers come back to disapproval and criticism and all, like noticing the patterns of what's going on instead of being caught in the riptide of like being dragged through the shit. And so when I recognize that my knee-jerk response is wanting to numb, I remember that like the actual trigger is really only 60 seconds or less of actual chemical if you can make the thoughts shift to something else. And meditation, again, it's not about making thoughts stop. It's about sinking deeper into the ocean of our being, right? Like the waves on the surface are what's choppy. It's underneath that is really still. If you go even 10 feet down into the ocean, it's not choppy like that. And so if you can sink down beneath the choppy thoughts, the fear brain that wants you to run away or wants you to fight, is sinking underneath that, it can generate thoughts from a different part of the brain, right? So again, it's not that we're trying to stop thought, we're changing the frequency on our thoughts. And so I set my timer for 22 minutes and I sit there with my eyes closed. And for the first, I'm going to say solid, like 15 minutes, like it was kind of like a parade, you know, like if you like parades, only like a parade of past pain, you know, kind of like that, to where it was the connected memories. It was the reason that this experience was so triggering to me. It wasn't this random person saying this random opinion. That wasn't really the thing, right? Because it reminded me of this other time. And then that reminded me of this other time. And then that reminded me of like a whole slew of memories that had to do with my mom and her disapproving of me and her being mad at me and her, you know, like it led back down into a much deeper locus of pain. And truth be told, like the trigger almost never has anything to do with the person who triggered us, right? Like it's showing us, it's an invitation into the next level of our own healing. And so for about 15 minutes, I watched the parade of pain from this, like, under the ocean, in the stillness, in the observer, right? The observer of the pain is not hurting. Okay, so like I was watching how, yeah, I can see that hurt. That really hurt me. And then being with that enough, and it almost felt like it kind of cleared it or maybe integrated it. I'm not really sure. But it would fade away, and then another one would come to the surface, and then that would fade away after I was with it for a little while, and then another one would come to the surface. And there were easily like 6 or 7 different memories that came to me to be with them in those 15 minutes. And then, okay, this is the real MVP of the story, was that, and then I was sitting on my bed with just leaning up against the wall behind my bed, and having watched the parade of pain, having watched the painful memories that were associated and were actually what was triggered by this one little opinion that this person offered. Having watched all of that, still with my eyes closed, still in my meditation, I felt my inner child like kind of approach the side of the bed and like lean up to me, and like she asked me, like little girl Carly, she's like 4 or 5 years old, and she asked me, "Is it safe now? Is it safe now?" And she crawled, like, again, this is all just obviously all in my meditation. She crawled up into my lap, and in that moment, I was whole. Something healed in that moment of her crawling back into my lap. And what clicked, I sat there for another like 6 or 7 minutes just to be sure that like the trigger was mostly gone. Like there were remnants of it, and like recounting the experience, like criticism is one of my hot button triggers. And so there's still layers and layers and layers to heal. But in that moment of her crawling back into my lap, of her being like, is it safe now? Is it safe for my inner child to come back to my inner adult? And the re-merging together of the two parts of myself, I realized something about triggers in general and about my personal like hot button issue of criticism and disapproval, is that what had happened, like the actual mechanics of what had happened when I saw that person saying that like you're wrong, or like I'm wrong by their opinion, right? Like, and in that moment, my nervous system like isn't interested in the distinction, like I'm wrong, right? And so in that moment, I was agreeing somewhat, or at least entertaining the possibility that like they're right and I am wrong. And in that moment, I abandoned myself. In that moment of witnessing that like they have a different opinion, and I am going over to their opinion of me, which is that I'm wrong and that this is bad. And again, like the person on the other end probably has no idea that this even happened, has no idea that like this was even a thing, or that like, of course they didn't mean to do this. And I say that because as I read back through like what had happened, this was all in writing, thank goodness, because then I could really like go back and see exactly like what was said, right? Like I got really curious, and from my scientific perspective, like what did they actually say that set me off? And when I reread it a couple days later, I was like, really? Like that was it? Like that's all they said? Like I remembered it being so much more than that. And like, again, that's where our triggers, like it's not about the person standing in front of you. It's about the parade of pain that it's bringing up out of our depths. It's the pain that we weren't able to really feel and be with before when it originally happened. It was too great for our system to process and digest. And so it gets shoved into our shadow. And that person helped me to bring a lot of those old wounds up and out of my shadow so that I could be with them. And so in those last 6 or 7 minutes of that meditation with my inner child sitting on my lap, she was like hugging me and I was hugging her and we were together. And I realized that like it's impossible to feel triggered from this place of togetherness because I'm with her and she's with me and we're both safe in this right now present moment, right? There is no cheetah chasing us. Like our amygdala would like to think that it's really in danger, but it's not. In this present moment, we are both safe. My inner child is safe with me and I am safe in this present moment to keep her safe. And what I recognized was that this trigger, the way that triggers like get into our system or the way that they actually happen is that we split apart from ourselves. We abandon ourselves in the moment that opens the door for the trigger to come in, right? Like in that moment of witnessing their disagreement, I had run away from my inner child. My inner child like ran away from me because I was agreeing with them that like, I think I'm being bad right now. Like I was entertaining that possibility and she ran away because I have a history of when people think that you're being bad, you get punished, right? So like there's that programming, there's the fear of others' reactions. And in that moment, again, it wasn't the fear of that person's reaction. It was the fear of my own reaction. It was the fear of, am I going to beat up on myself for this? And so my inner child ran away from me. And it was in that self-abandonment, the split of myself, that was the real pain. And the moment that she felt safe to come back to me, she felt like, oh, so you're not going to beat up on us for this? Like, are we not wrong or bad? And it's like, well, maybe we are, but I'm still not going to beat up on us for it. And so that moment was obviously very profound for me. And I don't know how good of a job I did relaying the profundity of it here. But for me, I am taking forward that all triggers are a matter of self-abandonment. That is where a trigger truly comes from, and that is also how you close the door to the trigger and you get yourself up out of it, is that you come back together with yourself. You stop running away from yourself. You stop beating up on yourself so that you feel safe within yourself, right? Like these are not small things. And so that is what came out of this North Node conjunct Chiron for me, was that, you know, I do have a history of when someone's opinion is different from mine, I will kind of just assume that they're right. And that does not do me any favors, okay? Especially at this stage in the game, right? Like, I can totally understand why I developed that pattern. Like when we're children and we're cement, like we're very impressionable and we don't have a strong sense of identity inside of ourselves to like put up any kind of resistance to somebody else having a different opinion than ours. But today, right? Like where I'm at today, that's no longer true. I had knowledge, I had tools in my toolbox, like remembering that a trigger is only 60 seconds long, and remembering that like I can be the observer of the pain rather than being in the pain. I can be with it in this present moment, and I can make a safe space for myself. Right? These are things that don't come about overnight. Like these are things that I've practiced. And that's actually reminding me of a couple other videos that I'll link in the description box for you, talking about my recap of the Taurus North Node chapter that we had from January 2022 through July of 2023. We had the North Node in Taurus and the South Node in Scorpio. And what that did for me was like really increase my level of embodiment. And what that meant was I had to purge a lot of pain that was in my body that was keeping me out of my body. So those are in the description box as well if you'd like to look at those. So I want to give you a few dates here as far as like this 16-degree Aries point of where the North Node and Chiron had their conjunction for the February 11th through the 25th. Mercury will be going over that point direct on March 19th. That's when it'll make its first pass over that point. And then because Mercury's going to station retrograde and go backwards to 15 degrees, we'll have a second pass over that 16-degree point and then a third pass. And what's really interesting about those, the second and the third, is that it's stationing direct at the tail end of 15 degrees. And when it stations, it has to slow down to a stop. And then when it starts moving again, it like just barely speeds up. Like you think about a car, just general physics, like you're not going to like press the gas pedal and instantly be going 100 miles an hour. You have to go from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and you get faster and faster and faster. But like when you take off from 0, you're moving really slow. And when you come to a stop, you move really slow right before you stop. And so because that point of stationing direct is happening at the end of 15 degrees, the second pass over 16 degrees, where it's the retrograde motion, where it's moving backwards over 16, that's from April 20th to the 24th. So again, Mercury at its full speed, it goes over like 2 degrees a day, like a little bit less than that, but pretty close. And so for it to spend like 4 days on 16 degrees right before it stops, and then it starts again, and so it'll go direct, and it'll be going back over 16 degrees from April 25th through the 30th. So we have like 10 days of Mercury sitting on 16 degrees. 1 day direct, 4 days retrograde, and then 5 days direct on 16 degrees. To like really like drive into the ground, like really get integrated into your system everything that came out of this 2-week period of the North Node and Chiron sitting on that same degree point. So again, I would love to hear from you down below. What came up for you when the North Node was conjunct Chiron? And it may be completely different than my theme of self-abandonment, but I guarantee whatever the theme of your time, those 2 weeks, February 11th through the 24th, whatever it was, the 25th, whatever it was, that is not over, right? We have March 19th, April 20th through the 24th, and April 25th through the 30th. So by the time we get to the end of April, that theme will be transformed, will be completely different in your nervous system. And I, for one, am really looking forward to these different passes that Mercury is going to be making as far as like really bringing these themes into our conscious awareness, which is very much ruled by that Mercury archetype. So before I go on to the next chapter where we're going to talk about the eclipse season that's also happening on the Aries Libra axis while Mercury is doing this extended stay in Aries, I want to talk about something that I like really sparked me into even making this video, which is that I, without really meaning to, I scheduled a free healing event for right in the middle of this entire process. So I am hosting a free retreat from March 16th through the 20th, and anyone can register. Anyone can be there. We're meeting on Zoom for 1 hour each day on the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th. And even if you can't be there for all 5 days, you're welcome to register for whichever of the days that you're free to attend. And then there will be replays on the days that you can't be there. So you can get the information to join the actual Zooms, Or if these dates have passed, you can also access the replays by registering at the link in the description box. And the whole point of this event is that, you know, we are each 1 trillion% unique. We are each a unique extension of life force energy and a unique extension of God, if you can really go there with your own divinity, and knowing yourself as God. We each have a unique representation of the divine to bring forth into the physical. And that is another way of saying that we each have our own unique, authentic self. And so these 5 days that I carved out on the calendar, March 16th through the 20th, are time for us to spend together and deepen into our divine design. And we're going to do that through a couple of different ways. Number one, we're going to work on raising our frequency so that we can elevate the vibration of our physical being, which naturally will give us access to new thoughts, new perspectives, new oxygen, new life force energy. And we are also going to chip away and work together as a group in the safety of community to chip away at what are the pieces, what are the blocks that keep us from really just diving head first into our authenticity and living fully from our divine design. There are reasons, right? And typically they are collective reasons. They're very relatable. No matter who you talk to, everyone has conditioning, everyone has programming, everyone has trauma, everyone has people-pleasing tendencies to some degree, even the people who say they don't. Like, there are certain people who will bring that up and out of us simply because of the tribal nature of human beings, right? Belonging is something that is woven into the fabric of our DNA as a survival technique. So again, going back to the fear brain, going back to the amygdala, it is not safe to be authentic. In our cells, our body knows that to be true. And it is our work, as far as if we want to show up in this world as our own unique, authentic self, it is our work to find and create safety inside of ourselves, a safe place for us to get to be ourselves. And so that is really the goal of this event, is that you would find new levels of safety within your being. So we're going to approach it from a few different ways. We're going to have time and space included in the event to journal, where we'll sit quietly for a minute or two and you'll be able to have some time to introspect. We'll do very brief guided meditations that I'll walk us through, as far as like approaching meditation from a few different ways, so that possibly you can find a doorway or even just like one step into meditation that works for you, or deepen your practice if that's something that you're already doing on a daily basis or weekly basis, however often. We're going to have dance parties. You don't have to dance. You can just enjoy the music, or you can turn your camera off and dance, or you can leave your camera on and again, push the edges of how safe and present you're able to be inside your being. And at the end of each session, we'll also have one hot seat where one person will get to come up and kind of bring the conversation to life even more deeply, as far as having a coaching conversation back and forth with myself. So that's a little bit about the structure of the event. And I fully expect that, honestly, even attending one day of this event is going to transform your authenticity, is going to help it to bloom and open up in the presence of that much more safety, allow even more of what is inside of you to come up and out, where you can actively work with it as a conscious co-creator of your own divine design. Even one day, even half of one day, like the potency of what is waiting there for us is undeniable. The transformation possibility, the alchemy of being in that space is undeniable. And that is why when I found out that Mercury, like I didn't even know that Mercury was going to be having this extended stay in Aries. I did not know that on March 19th, Mercury is making its first pass over that 16-degree point where the North Node and Chiron had their conjunction, I did not plan any of that. I just felt in terms of my own energy, and I knew that this transformation portal, it was out there in the future, and I went in search of like, where is that on the calendar? Like, how many weeks into the future is it? I scheduled this like at the beginning, the first week or two of February, I think is when I put it on the calendar, and I did it because it backs up to the spring equinox. The astrological new year is happening on March 19th and 20th. And so we start on the 16th and we end on the 20th. And so that was my thought, was that this is like kind of working us down into ourselves so that as that Aries equinox comes about, this like spark of new life has just like richly fertile ground, so that that spark of new life is us blossoming into even more of our own radical authenticity to kick off this astrological new year. So that was my thought process, was, you know, we can be together during the last few days of Pisces season. We can kick off the astrological new year together, and then come to find out the third week of March, which is exactly when this is happening, is like this divine healing portal that like I did not even realize that like the astrological energies are really congealing around that third week of March. I could just feel it. It's undeniable. So there are already a whole bunch, in my own opinion, a whole bunch of people registered for this event. I am so excited for the group that is gathering around this healing portal to like take this journey with me. And at the time I'm releasing this, there's still plenty of time to register. And like I said, if the dates of that have already passed, you can get the replays by filling out the registration form below. It'll send you the replays straight to your email. So all of that to say, I would love to see you there. I would love for you to register and take this journey with us. If you are at all anywhere along the spectrum of wanting to deepen into the inner safety that you have within you, deepening into you allowing yourself to show up in your life as your authentic self, this event is a can't miss. The transformation potential, like I said, even in one day of attending this event, is astronomical. And I can feel it. I can feel pockets of energy and time. This is one of the gifts that I have, and it is huge. So if that sounds exciting, you should absolutely check out the link below. There's a little bit more information as far as like time and all of that. A little bit more of an invitation there at the link, and then you can register at the bottom, and the invitation to join the Zoom will be sent to your email. It's the same Zoom link every day, March 16th through the 20th, 10 a.m. Central Time to 11 a.m. Central Time. I would love to have you there with me. Thank you so much. And now back to the video. So, as if all of this wasn't already enough, as far as like Mercury coming in for 2.5 months, like right after we have the North Node conjunct Chiron for 2 weeks, like as if that's not already potent enough energy, we also have eclipse season happening completely inside of that period when Mercury's going to be doing its retrograde dance in Aries. And so we have the eclipses happening while the sun is in Aries, because I don't know if you know this is a little fun fact about why eclipses happen when they do. And it has to do with the sun being within 17 degrees, I believe, of the north and south node. The north node or south node, like whichever end it's on. And so for the sun to be in Aries while the north node is in Aries, both of the eclipses are happening. The first one is the Libra full moon lunar eclipse happening on March 25th. And then we'll have the new moon solar eclipse in Aries happening on April 8th. So if you'll remember the dates of the Mercury in Aries are March 9th through May 15th. So to have March 25th and April 8th, it's like, again, this whole process is just like this big divinely timed clock of like something is ready to burst. Something is ready to come to life, that spark of new life, that Aries energy, that spring equinox spark of new life. Like to have the eclipse season, the North Node Chiron conjunction, Mercury retrograde in Aries, and then we also have other pieces coming into Aries, like I mentioned, where Venus will be in Aries from April 4th through the 29th. So missing out on, let's see. So Venus getting there just in time for the new moon solar eclipse in Aries happening on April 8th. And then we'll also have Mars joining the party in Aries. The ruler of Aries is Mars. And Mars will be there from April 30th through June 8th. So overstaying that Mercury in Aries process a little while, but still catching a good big chunk of it with Mars in Aries as well. So the amount of energy that will be focused on that Aries part of our chart, it's also worthwhile to go ahead and take a look at where is Aries in your chart and what do you have going on in Aries? What do you have going on in Libra? What do you have going on in the other cardinal signs of Cancer and Capricorn? What do you have going on in the other fire signs, Aries being one of the fire signs, Leo and Sagittarius being the other two? So like really looking at how does Aries factor in to your personal energy? Like for me, for example, I'm a Taurus rising. I know there's a lot of Taurus risings around the channel. So Aries is completely intercepted in my 12th house. So all of this energy of like this Aries party is happening in my 12th house of like, I feel like I can feel the transformational potential of like really, it feels like the like typical butterfly pushing out of the chrysalis. Like our spiritual gifts are inside this chrysalis, and during this time, this Aries extravaganza, we are going to have those spiritual gifts really pushing their way out. But again, I wonder if I'm feeling that because I have all of this happening in my 12th house. Wherever you have it happening, I'm sure it will feel unique to you. So eclipse season is bound to be a big thing. Like it just always is. We have eclipse season twice a year. And so this will be our spring eclipse season. And at this station, at this juncture of having those eclipses happening during Mercury retrograde, or I guess rather the new moon solar eclipse in Aries will happen during Mercury retrograde. The full moon lunar eclipse in Libra will happen right before Mercury retrograde. So I see them working together as that full moon lunar eclipse in Libra really highlighting the themes that came during the North Node Chiron conjunction. So like, remember my example was self-abandonment. And I do that when I'm criticized, when someone disapproves of me, when someone disagrees with me, like that happens when I go towards somebody else's opinion instead of staying connected to myself. And so that Libra full moon lunar eclipse is bound to highlight some kind of relationship patterns that are reinforcing whatever that wound is that showed itself to us during the North Node Chiron conjunction. And how interesting that we get to see that pattern, and then Mercury stations retrograde in Aries, and it's like almost this like reevaluation process of Mercury moving back over the second half of Aries, of asking ourselves, is that really true for you? Is that your truth, or is that your social conditioning? Right? Like that's really the whole point of the Aries North Node, Libra South Node, Aries North Node being leaning into your truth, leaning into the truth of your actual identity, the version of your soul that you came here to be, or the Libra South Node, your social conditioning. Like who did they teach you should be? Right? Like what are the gender roles of the society that you were raised in? What did your parents expect of you? What was your birth order? And what does that have to say about, who you should be? Like I'm the oldest, for example, and like that was always like, you're the oldest, you should know better. You're supposed to be the responsible one, yada, yada, yada. And like Dude, I have no doubt that I came as the oldest. I came in a family where like they popped out babies like they had a clock on their ass. Like there was 4 kids in 4 years and I'm the oldest of those kids. And so I have no doubt that I chose that because in this lifetime I have the mission of healing this dichotomy, this separation between operating according to what is expected of me or operating in accordance with my own divine truth, the truth of my soul, what I know in my bones to be true based on what my soul can feel and can tell me. I am here to lean into that. And so, like when you are working towards mastering a lesson, when you have mastery as your goal in any of your lifetimes, you're going to set yourself up with a really difficult beginning. Right? Like if we have a super easy beginning and we get right into our soul mission, like right away, like I don't personally think that's a mastery level lifetime, because if it was easy to get there, then you didn't master anything, right? Like if you're going to master it, you're going to need to go through the actual process of having to overcome something. Like there has to be that magnetic force pulling you backwards into that initial situation, the initial social conditioning, the initial programming, and it's by working your way out of that and actually putting that power back inside of yourself that you reach mastery. Again, these are all my own opinions, but I do think it's interesting that we'll have the full moon lunar eclipse in Libra right before Mercury retrograde starts, and then during Mercury retrograde is when the new moon solar eclipse in Aries is going to happen, about a week into Mercury retrograde. Mercury stationed retrograde on April 1st. April 8th, we'll have the new moon solar eclipse in Aries. And so I think that first week of Mercury retrograde, the first week of April, could be a tad rough, okay? Like that's my own personal opinion, when kind of like I was describing in my example of like the parade of pain, the parade of the related incidents that led you to where you are now, right? Like we don't stunt ourselves, we don't repress our authenticity for no good reason. Okay, there were great reasons. There were great reasons that had to do with you protecting your own survival. And that's why your authenticity got repressed. And so to bring your authenticity back out after, it was wise to repress it. Like that is a very triggering experience. It's a very being witness to your own pain and being with your own pain in a way where you cultivate the safety inside of yourself. This world is not promising to give us safety. This world doesn't owe us safety. This world is inherently an unsafe place. Groups of people are inherently unsafe places to be, because as soon as you have two different people together, you have difference. You have egos that see it differently. You have expectations. You have projection, right? So like being around people and being on planet Earth is inherently unsafe. So if we want to feel safe to be our authentic self and to show up in the world that way, that means cultivating that safety inside of ourselves. And so I think that first week of April is bound to be a little bit rocky. And then April 8th, we have the new moon solar eclipse in Aries, and that promises, this is what it feels like to me, again, like feeling the energy of that, like in the future, like it feels like an explosion of divinity, an explosion of willingness to be our own safe haven, our own willingness to see beyond what other people want, need, expect, crave from us, and to instead come to it from a place of, let me tune into my soul on that one and get back to you. You know, like this idea of eliminating auto response, right? That Libra South Node is the typical pleaser archetype. And so there's this like knee-jerk auto response of somebody asks you for something, and as long as it's not like offensive or derogatory or whatever, like, oh yeah, sure, I could do that. And it's like, no, like, not that you can't still do it. Like, if they ask you and your soul wants to, and it's like a win-win on both sides, like, great, go do it. But often, right? Like, how often are we really taking the time to ask our authentic self, to ask our soul, is that something you want to do? Or is that something you're doing because they asked you to? And when you auto respond, when you just give that knee-jerk yes, oh yeah, I could totally do it, that doesn't give any space for our authenticity to breathe. And so I think this new moon solar eclipse happening April 8th is that explosion of divinity, that explosion of awareness of the only impulses to follow are the ones that originate from within us, right? Like, somebody else's impulses are not ours to follow. And it's only within ourselves that we can find our divine design. It's only within ourselves that we can find our own highest path. And so that opportunity to expand our awareness of what does your authentic self really even want, right? Like, this reminds me of when I very first set about to, like, this was before I launched the channel Owning Authenticity. This was before I really adopted that as my soul's mission on this planet at this time in this life. Before all of that came the year of speaking truth. That was my first original intention. And I ended up launching my YouTube channel during that year. About 9 months into that year, I launched Owning Authenticity. And so my original intention was like, I'm going to speak my truth. And the first few months of that year, that was 2021, the first few months, I had full permission from myself to be honest and truthful and like, no more walking on eggshells. I'm going to speak my truth. And the first few situations that arose where that was necessary, where I could feel I don't agree with what's going on, I also had no idea what my truth was. Like, I had no ability to speak my truth because I'd never practiced it before, and then when I went to practice it, I realized I can't even do it because I don't even know what it is. So being our authentic self is very multidimensional as far as the process, and especially when we're just newly coming to that, as far as our intentions and wanting to be authentic, there are layers and layers and layers and layers of our own social conditioning to get through, not to mention the cultural conditioning of like the decades and centuries and millennia of all the different ways that we were taught it's safe to be in this world, right? And so much of that is a list of, here are all the things that you need to repress in order to be safe in this world. And towards the top of that list are our personal desires. It's not safe to have desire and act on it. It's just not. You need to check in and make sure that that is okay with your parents, okay with your priest, okay with your teachers, okay with blah, 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 blah. Like, you got to make sure that the people around you are also not going to hurt you if you pursue those desires. And so coming to our authentic self and living as our authentic self, if you've ever felt like that's a struggle for you, please just know that you are not alone. And so again, that event that I'm hosting on March 16th through the 20th, that is the goal, is to really come together in community and feel our way through, number one, who are we really inside of ourselves? And we get there by raising our frequency and finding more safety inside of ourselves. And then also having some really juicy conversations about what are these common blocks that get in our way. And when you see that you are so not alone, you are not the only person dealing with this, like, there is relief in that alone, right? Like, so often this society benefits and even fucking profits off of you deciding that you're the only one with this problem, and the problem is actually that you're just broken, right? There's nothing wrong with society. There's nothing wrong with culture. You're broken. That's good for business, right? Like, the people selling you the things, the people selling you the remedies, that's good for business, that you believe that you alone are the ones suffering with this issue. And so that is really the true healing power of community, is coming into a community where you are allowed to have your own sovereignty, right? It's not a drink the Kool-Aid kind of place. It's a facilitated experience of diving deeper into your own sovereign being. That's the kind of community I create. And not everybody does that, right? There are communities out there where it's totally drink the Kool-Aid, be just like us. This is the right way to be. But like, honestly, that's just more of that Libra South node perpetuating of like finding safety by being like the people in the group. And so this is a safe place for your individual sovereignty, whatever that looks like, whether it's different from mine or not. And yes, that may be triggering to my hot button issue of being disagreed with and disapproved of and being told I'm wrong. But that is the work. That's the work of being in that kind of community and granting myself my own sovereignty and granting every single person around me their sovereignty as well. So again, if you would like to come and check out that event, I would love to have you there. And the last piece of this monumental time in our life, like, this is not just big astrology for the spring or for 2024. Like, these are pieces that are lining up. Like I said, we haven't had Mercury retrograde in Aries since 2018. Another piece that's happening is Jupiter conjunct Uranus is happening during this time as well. So this is happening at the late 21 degree point of Taurus. So not happening in Aries, and Jupiter as a planet rules Sagittarius and anciently rules Pisces. Uranus as a planet rules Aquarius. So it's not even that these are like the Aries archetypes, but Jupiter conjunct Uranus. Jupiter is the great expander. It makes things bigger. And Uranus is all about your divine electricity. It clears away things that are in the way of you living as your individual authentic self. It makes changes for you that you have not been able to make yourself. It is the great liberator. It's like kind of a tower moment. Like, either we can walk proactively into the changes that are needed so that we can expand into even more of our individuality, or Uranus will act as a tower moment to crumble and take away the structures that are limiting us from being in our radical authenticity. And so to have Jupiter come together with Uranus, that happens not even every decade. Okay, like Jupiter doesn't even conjunct Uranus in every sign it's in. Like, for example, after Taurus, we'll have Uranus move into Gemini, and while Uranus is in Gemini, Uranus and Jupiter will not make a conjunction. They won't have their next conjunction for another 12 to 13 years until Uranus is on into Cancer. So the lack of frequency of this transit makes it rare, makes it that much more impactful when it does happen. And so we have that Jupiter conjunct Uranus happening at the late 21st degree, and that is happening April 20th. So like right in the middle of all of this, right in the middle of Mercury retrograde, right in the middle of Mercury's time in Aries overall, and right after eclipse season. So we have the March 25th full moon lunar eclipse in Libra. We have the April 8th new moon solar eclipse in Aries. And then April 20th, we have Jupiter conjunct Uranus exactly. So again, I see that lunar eclipse in Libra showing us more clearly the relationship patterns that are holding us back from being more of who we really are. The Aries new moon solar eclipse really giving us that new burst of awareness, especially with Mercury there too. New burst of conscious awareness of like, who even are you? And then 2 weeks later, we have Jupiter conjunct Uranus. Again, like it feels like C4. Like blowing up the structures in the physical that are keeping you stuck and stagnant from proceeding on in living the soul mission that you came here to live. Okay, like Uranus is not forgiving in terms of you had a mission and you were coming here for a reason. Your soul is different from any other soul on the planet, and you're not allowed to sleep on that. because while you hide that away, the world is deprived by your unique facet of divinity, and that's not allowed, according to Uranus. And that is really fascinating because we experience our Uranian return, our Uranus return at 42. In our early 40s, we experience the opposition where Uranus has had 42 years to go halfway around the zodiac and find its way into the exact opposition with where it was when we were born. And so you think about like the midlife crisis of like people kind of waking up out of their sleepwalk and realize like, what have I been doing? Like, I hate my job. I hate my marriage. I hate my life. I hate this place where I'm living. Like, what am I doing? None of this is me. And then they start off on this journey of like discovering who they are or like finding themselves or whatever. And like that midlife crisis point that typically happens in our 40s, that's the Uranus return. And if we don't allow ourselves to lean into our individuality, the consequences are so fucking depressing. Okay? Like it's basically depression, lethargy, cynicism, I think about the people who say like, I really hope this is my last lifetime. I hate it here. It's like that to me sounds like somebody who is not living their soul's mission. It's somebody who's not lined up with their authentic self. And of course, like I've been describing, like no one represses their authenticity just for shits and giggles. Okay. Like we do it because we're surviving. We're trying to keep ourselves alive. We're trying to keep the other people around us from attacking us. And I get that. I totally get that. But there's risk in both ways, is what I'm saying. There's risk in exposing your authenticity and leaning into it and the potential rejection that could come from that. Yes, there is, in my own opinion, an even greater risk in keeping it repressed. And especially if you get all the way through your 40s and you don't get into your authenticity, your 50s, 60s, I mean, you just go into this like pit of despair where the life force leaks out of your body, because the life force is you connected to your own divinity, right? Like, have you ever met an old person who doesn't seem old? Like, I get mistaken all the time for like, there's no way you're that old. And I'm like, well, I am. And it's because I'm having fun. And like the people who are old and not having fun, they seem so much older than they are. The people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and they're still loving their life, they seem so much younger than they are. And what is that? That's having access to your own life force energy. It's not a guarantee that we deteriorate as we get older, or that we have to become like the old curmudgeon or whatever, like the cranky old man. Like, no, that's somebody who's denying their individuality. That's somebody who's too scared to chase their authenticity and too scared to work through the layers of conditioning that are holding them back and let themselves live as an authentic expression of who they came here to be. That's someone who is valuing safety over freedom. And that is the riskiest proposition of all, especially the older we get. So this period of April 20th, when Jupiter is exactly conjunct Uranus at the late 21st degree of Taurus, that happening right in the middle of all of this is way too auspicious not to mention, as far as like it following up eclipse season, it happening right before the end of Mercury retrograde, right? Mercury is going to be retrograde April 1st through the 24th. So April 20th, that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is exact. 4 days before now, Mercury's going to station direct, right? Like right there on like the 16th degree where North Node and Chiron had their conjunction. Mercury stationed direct on 16 degrees of Aries, and going forward again through the end of Aries on into Taurus to, again, Mercury then will later conjunct that point of 21 degrees of Taurus where Uranus will still be there and Jupiter will be a little bit forward by that point. But we have some really radical awakening happening in these next couple of months, March, April, May of 2024. We're not going to be the same person. By the time we get to May and June of 2024, like I expect life will look very different for ourselves on an individual level and for the collective. Like I expect that there will be some pretty sizable disruptions, pretty sizable breakdowns in the patterns of what's been happening. And the thing about it is that, you know, even as I'm saying this, like I'm seeing comments like on this video, and I see comments on other videos where like people get really scared when we start talking about change, because most people would prefer the devil you know instead of the unknown heaven. And I'm just going to tell you right now, like if you would rather stay in your comfort zone, you probably can. And it's going to get more and more and more and more uncomfortable to do that. But can you stay there and put up with that discomfort, tolerate the discomfort? Absolutely. You want to be a masochist and like just take the pain instead of moving somewhere different that feels like heaven on earth, you go for it. Okay. But if you are somebody who has been already working yourself into wanting to be an expression of your own unique divinity, if you're someone who already has a vision for your life of like, I can see what my soul really wants, I can see these pictures that are living in my heart. One, you have those pictures for a reason. And number two, the astrology of these next few months could not be more supportive of like literally within a few months from now, you could be living that. Like the amount that can change in such a short amount of time is truly miraculous if you're available for that. And so I know around this channel, because I've met with you, a lot of you in the activation sessions here recently, I know that there are a lot of you who have these pictures in your mind, who have these visions of what you want your life to be, the way that you want to show up, the way that you want to give your gifts to the world, the way that you want to feel the exhilaration of living from the core of your own soul. This next phase of astrology is so freaking excited. And that's why, once again, I am so excited to be hosting my event by accident in the middle of all of this. So March 16th through the 20th, if you want to come hang out with me and get some live doses of really accelerating this process and really clarifying inside of yourself, what are the visions of your heart that you're wanting to live, and what are the pieces that are stopping you from doing that? It is incredible how much can change so quickly. Like a lot of times we can get into the story of like change takes a long time. No, being stuck in fear of change can last the rest of your life. That's what takes a long time. When you're ready to leap, the change, the next version, it's already right there. We just have to be willing to let go of the current version that we're living. And again, if you don't want to do that, you want to just keep swinging in the place where you are, please, 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 please do that. And just know that if it feels like it's getting harder and harder and harder, that's not going to stop. That's going to continue, because that's not where you're supposed to be. Right? We're not supposed to value safety over freedom. This world is inherently unsafe. Safety exists inside of ourselves. Safety is when we stop abandoning ourselves for approval from other people. Safety is when we value our own freedom, when we feel the wings, the muscles of our wings. I say this a lot in the group spaces that I host and in one-on-one sessions. Like, the reason I do my work is because one of my all-time favorite sensations is feeling the muscles in my wings. And I share my work and I work with people one-on-one because I want you to feel the muscles in your own wings, the wings that you were born with because you were meant to fly. Okay, like if you weren't meant to fly, you wouldn't have wings. And if you're sitting there like, I don't have wings, I'm a human being, well, then maybe this conversation isn't for you. But if you're still listening, I gotta think you know exactly what I'm talking about, of like soaring in your own freedom, creating the exhilaration of creating and bringing the vision of your soul to life. That is the sensation of feeling the muscles in your own wings, the divinity in your own beingness, the rightness of your authenticity. Exactly who you are is divinely intended. The gifts that you brought, the deficiencies, if you can call them that you brought, every bit of it was divinely intended because it's perfect for the mission that your soul had. And the exhilaration of living that mission is unlike anything else on this earth that I have ever found. And that is why I do my work. That is why I meet with people. That is why I'm hosting my free event in March 16th through the 20th. So with that, we will go ahead and get into the interpretations for each of the 12 individual North Nodes. Hello, Aries North Node or First House North Node. Welcome to this specific reading of what new sparks of clarity are likely to take hold as we go through this Mercury and Aries extended over 2 months period, especially where you all are having your North Node return, especially Aries North Node. You're going through your nodal return that only happens every 18 and a half years. This is bound to be a significant turning point the entire time that Aries North Node is going on, which is, July 2023 through January of 2025. But especially for these couple of months, Mercury being there is going to bring these changes up into your consciousness where you can see them. They are tangible. They are things that you can visibly work with. So the spark that I see for Aries North Node are new ways to value your independence and be loud and proud about what you alone have to offer. So I also drew a few tarot cards that help me to kind of like really dial in this message. And the first part of that message is the Four of Wands, where you have a lot to celebrate. You have come a long ways, right? Like already in this transit, we're almost halfway through this Aries North Node chunk, this 18-month process of that nodal return for you. So you have already overcome so many of the blocks that used to hold you back, right? Like I'll bet if you looked right here compared to July of 2023, you recognize that you've already gone miles and miles and miles down the road, right? This process is well underway. So as we have Mercury going through the sign of Aries for this extended period due to the retrograde, I would imagine that we're going to see a lot of rewriting who you know yourself to be, right? Like take a second and really take stock of just how far you've come. I think is going to work wonders for your own self-perception. The second card was the Nine of Wands, and with this one I always know you are so much stronger than you think you are, period, right? Like you are not giving yourself enough credit. There is so much of your strength that you could be claiming. And how do you do that? Through looking for the evidence of it, right? Like we will always find the evidence for the belief that we are holding. And so if we believe that we're not capable, we believe that other people are more powerful than us, we believe that, if they're not okay, then we can't be okay. Like when we have those beliefs, we'll find evidence that says all of that is true. That's just how the law of attraction, the law of reception works. Like when you tune your dial to that particular station, the music will play. Or we can switch those beliefs. We can look at how far you've come. We can look at all of the ways that you've already transformed and all the ways that you're already stepping more into your power, all the ways that you go through a situation and you recognize, wow, if that had happened a year ago, I would have handled it like this in my old pattern, but I didn't, right? Like it was hard, it was uncomfortable, but I did it anyway, right? Like Nine of Wands, you're stronger than you think you are. The next one is the Two of Wands. I love how many Wands cards there are, right? So far we've got the Four of Wands, the Nine of Wands, and now the Two of Wands. And with this one, right, this card, I love the imagery on it because basically what this is saying is that we're still somewhat inside of a comfort zone. And we can see out the window that there are new horizons that we would like to explore. There's the wand that she's holding, and there's the wand that's still leaning up against the wall, hasn't really been played with yet. And with this one, the message is always, no one is ever going to force you outside your comfort zone. Okay, so like take a second and like really feel that in your nervous system, that like there's no force. You don't have to change. You don't have to transform. You don't have to leave your comfort zone. You can stay there as long as you want. She can sit in this room till she takes her last breath. Nobody's going to tell her that she can't, but She's the one looking out the window. She's the one that knows that there are horizons out there that she hasn't explored yet, right? And so if you're feeling that, like, that's probably a good sign that there's even more of your power that you personally are ready to step into. You personally, person who has found this message, right? Like, you lined up with receiving this message right here, right now, today. And the next card is another wand card. It's the Queen of Wands. She's holding the power in her hands. She knows how to use her power. She steps into it and she owns it and she claims it fully. And so that is what is on the table for you. And this portal, this particular part of the Aries North Node transit, these 18 months, these 2 months with Mercury here, what is actually happening? All that's happening is that we're transforming our own self-perception, right? Like, basically what I'm saying to you is that when we look, especially at these two cards together, when we look at them side by side, it's like, part of you feels like you're still sitting in your comfort zone and there's more that you want to explore, and the other part of you knows that, like, you're already living it, you're already holding the power, you already have it, and like, all that really needs to catch up is your mind, is your belief system, is your mental clarity that, like, you already own this power. And as if that Queen of Wands wasn't enough to, like, drive that point home, let's go ahead and complete your set with the Magician. Okay, so, like, yet another card proving that, like, you personally have every ounce of power that you already need. Like, there is nothing outside of you that's waiting to click into place. Everything that needs to click into place is in your mindset, is in your mental clarity, is in your own self-perception of being able to see yourself clearly. And so my main advice for Aries North Node over this time is to really focus on what belief are you holding, aka what belief is reality going to give you evidence for. And if you're holding the belief that I am powerful, I am strong, I am capable of having everything I desire, if that's your set point, if that's where your radio is tuned, just sit back and relax, and life will bring you the evidence that will show you just how true that is. Aries North Node, this is such an exciting time, like this being your nodal return, these 18 months, this entire period is likely to be a huge shift, right? Every 18 and a half years, we go through our nodal return. So huge turning point for you. And this period of Mercury in Aries for this retrograde and like covering the second half of Aries twice, 3 times if you include the retrograde, this is a time where your mental space is about to get up to speed. And once that happens, there's no stopping you. You can have whatever you want. You can have, if you can see it in your mind, not even that you can create it, but if you can see it in your mind, it already exists. That's my belief anyway. Again, I hold that belief, and life continuously brings me the evidence that it's true. That like when we have a vision of what we want our life to be, or when we have a vision of what is it that's out there on the horizon, it is literally only a matter of time. It's just a matter of time of like, keep your radio dial tuned to that station and like just let the music play long enough. It's like the boiling water analogy of like, oh, I put the water on the stove and it's been there for 5 seconds and it's not boiling. Something must be wrong. And it's like, no, nothing is wrong. Like in the physical world, like we're dealing with physics, like it takes time to ramp up. So leave the water on the flame for long enough and it'll boil every single time. And so that's really the element that's shifting for Aries North Node, I think, is that you will have this extended period of clarity of who you really are, of who you know yourself to be. And at that point, we're leaving the water on the flame for long enough that that stuff starts to boil. And what does that really mean? That means that the big ticket evidence that you are powerful will begin to show up in your life. And I also want to make sure that you know that I am hosting a free 5-day retreat. You don't have to come for the whole thing. If you can come for whatever days you're free. March 16th through the 20th, 10 a.m. Central Time each day. And this is what we're going to be working on, is really tuning in to who do you know yourself to be? What beliefs are you holding? What radio dial, what radio station are you tuned to so that life can bring you the evidence of that, right? And so these sessions that we'll host on Zoom are for making sure that you are deliberately tuning your energy. You're plugging in at the frequency that you want. You're setting your mind up for success by choosing to believe the things that you want to see the evidence of. So the link to register for the free 5-day, if you haven't already, is in the description box. If the dates of the retreat have passed, you can also go through that registration link and it'll send you the replays straight to your email, so you can check those out if you're interested. Aries North Node, I am wishing you all the best for this portal of awakening and realizing who you already are. Take such good care. I'll see you on the next one. Hello, Taurus North Node or second house North Node. Welcome to this reading specifically for the period where Mercury is going to have its extended stay in Aries, thanks to the retrograde happening. And I feel the spark of new clarity that's coming specifically for Taurus North Node are new ways to show the world the value you have to offer. And that process is so much deeper than it sounds, right? Like when we think about showing the world the value that we have to offer, number one, we have to be willing to see it ourselves. And that's the part where, you know, Taurus North Node, you just had your nodal return during the last chapter. That was January of 2022 through July of 2023. You just went through your nodal return. I'm going to go ahead and link my big Taurus North Node video down below. Like if you haven't seen that yet, that's a great deep dive into what the Taurus North Node is all about. But during this period, the Mercury being in Aries, I expect that you'll have new clarity, new ideas, new visions even of ways to show the world the value that you have to offer. And so much of that, again, is going to be possibly you seeing it in a new light yourself. So I've also done a small tarot reading here to help kind of bring some clarity to this message. And the first card that you got is the Justice card, this like reflection you see and this balance. And the entire concept of that Justice card, it gives me the sense of like positive karma coming your way. Okay, like especially where we just went through the Taurus North Node chapter, you just had like that deep scorpionic purge of your past karma. You have come so far. You have done so much work. You have done so much purging and healing of the wounds that you've been carrying through this entire lifetime, possibly even multiple lifetimes. And it's time for the reciprocal, the good karma, to come in and balance that out. And like, how does that actually happen? And that's where I think this next card is so perfect. The Eight of Pentacles, you see her there under the moon cycle, right? Like under many moons, showing up, working with her healing, working with her hands, getting her hands in the clay of doing the work of her healing process, showing up over and over and over and over, which is very much a Taurus concept, right? That persistence of being willing to do the work over the long haul. And again, you just keep doing your work, keep doing your healing work, and life is going to bring you that positive karma, aka how I would interpret that for Taurus North Node is like bringing you people who can see your value, bringing you people who think, wow, you're worth a lot, right? Like you can do that. Oh my gosh, right? Like really being taken aback and excited by the value. They feel like they've struck gold in getting to know you and getting to talk to you. And if that sounds exciting to you, I would love it if you could leave an emoji in the comments of like, what would it feel like to meet someone who just instantly gets everything that you have to offer, who can reflect back to you that like, hey, you're even more valuable than you already know yourself to be. So that is something that I think is really possible during this Mercury and Aries extended stay. is that not only can you see your value more clearly, but that it's very likely that other people are going to show up in your space who can also reflect that value back to you. And what is that value, right? Like, what is the value that you bring? And that would be a great place to spend a little bit of time during this Mercury and Aries journey, is the value that I have to offer is, and then make a list. Make a list of 10 things. You know, what are the first 10 things that come to mind? And if you can go to 20, go to 20. If you can go to 30, go to 30. Stretch your awareness of the value that you uniquely have to offer. And as a starting point, your next card is the Queen of Cups, right? That Scorpio South Node has intuition out the ass, okay? So like your intuition, your ability to read people, your ability to tune in like a laser straight to the heart of what people are feeling and what they're really going through, the blocks that they have, the desires that they have. Like, you can just pick this up like a radar, and that allows you to cut through so much bullshit when you actually meet with people, when you actually sit with them. Your intuition is giving you so much information that lets you really dial into the person that you're sitting across from. So as far as what value do you have to offer, I would imagine your intuition is near the top of the list. It is well honed, and using that to help people, to help yourself, and to help other people is one of the greatest gifts you have to offer. And your next card is the Nine of Cups. This is one of the wish fulfillment cards, and another of the wish fulfillment cards is the Nine of Pentacles, which is one of your other cards. And so the fact that you got both of these, like, nines also to me represent wisdom that's like fully baked and ready to share. Again, like new ways to understand the value that you have to offer and new ways to show it to the world. And your last card is the Knight of Wands. And this card to me, like, is one of the highest frequency cards in the whole deck, but you know, to each their own. This, like, just look at her. She's like lost in the joy, and you see the fire and the wildness, and so much of that to me reflects Scorpio, reflects that Scorpio South Node, and reflects the passion that you have. And so grounding that passion into the physical, again, is so much of the value that you have to offer. Finding ways to ground it within yourself, and then also opening up and expanding that space so that other people can plug into that passion as well. It's amazing how, you know, what feels like such normal energy to you because you carry it all the time, it's like your oxygen. When you give other people even just a small dose of that energy, it like brings them to life. It transforms them into their own Knight of Wands. So that passion, that intensity that you carry, don't hide it. It's contagious. It's like a transfusion of passion that you're able to share, able to offer to other people. So again, thinking about this list of the value that you have to offer, your passion is contagious. That fun that you're able to tap into through being able to feel so deeply yourself, being able to open up, right? Like, so many people will not go into the fun because they also won't let themselves go into the pain. And as Brené Brown so wisely says, we cannot selectively numb. When we numb out our pain, we're also numbing out our passion and our fervor for life. So one of the best gifts that you can give is to help people process through their pain, help them to open up to it in a way where it isn't such a scary thing that's going to pull them down into the undertow and carry them out to sea and drown them, right? Like, the strategies that you use for grounding in the middle of your own emotional intensity are part of the gift that you're here to give to the collective, is like, help the rest of us figure out how to be with our own emotional intensity in a way where we can still come back up to the surface for oxygen. We can still find our way back to a grounded, peaceful reality. The more you're able to do that within yourself, the more you're going to have to give to the collective through your gifts and sharing those. So during this time, this extended stay of Mercury in Aries, You are discovering new ways to see your own value and new ways to show that value to the world, the value that you alone have to offer. Taurus North Node, I hope it's a good one. I hope this is such a great period for you. If this sounds like something that you are ready to work on, like even more intensely, finding the value that you uniquely have to share with the world, you cannot afford to miss my upcoming free retreat happening on Zoom, March 16th through the 20th. The link to register is in the description box. If these dates have passed, you can also click that registration link to be sent the replays straight to your email. And during these days, that's what we're going to be doing, is tuning in to what is it that you already have, right? Like becoming our authentic self is never about like transforming into something new. It's always about setting down the old beliefs, the old systems of thinking that no longer serve us. It's like the statue is already in the marble, and the process of becoming our authentic self is in chipping away the pieces of the marble that aren't really us. The authenticity, the brilliance, the value, it's already in there. And if you're excited to discover it, I'm excited to lead you through that journey. I'm so looking forward to this free retreat. Again, link to register in the description box. Until next time, I do hope you'll take such good care of yourselves. Maybe I'll see you at the retreat, and have a good one. Bye. Hello, Gemini North Node. Welcome to a third house North Node. Regardless, you may find this chapter very interesting. So, with the extended stay of Mercury in Aries, for you all, I am feeling that the new spark of clarity is around new ways to think about truth by detaching from your embodied definition. So with that fire south node, with a Sagittarius south node, there can be some pretty ingrained patterns of what's true and what's not true. And when we have that, there's nothing wrong with this, right? It's neither here nor there. It's just the reality of the situation is that we got a really strong idea of what's true. The problem is introduced when that is precluding us, it's preventing us from being able to see and be able to envision that we can actually have the life we want. Like if what's ingrained in us as true is that we're not worthy, or that we're bad, or that we aren't good enough, or that, like we haven't done enough yet to earn whatever, like all of these ideas, all of these beliefs are like big, huge barriers standing in the way of us realizing what it is that we truly want. And so allowing ourselves to open up to consider new thoughts, new ideas of what might be true, and to really work with, how do you even tell what's true, right? Like that's where I love the book, The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck. And she talks about basically that the way to feel for truth in your system is that, when you hear something that's true, it should relax you. It should let you feel more open and more expansive. When you hear something that's false, it constricts you. It puts you into fear. It starts the anxiety loop inside of you. So that's, for me, that's the version of telling what's true. That's what I use, is that it makes me feel better. Okay? So like in this reality where we are each the creator of our own reality, life is a reflection of what we choose to believe. So if you want to believe that you're not good enough, life will show you the evidence. If you want to believe that you're already more than worthy, life will show you the evidence. And which one of those stories makes you feel better? At any version, at any juncture, we have the choice to tell ourselves one of two stories. There's only two stories. There's the version that makes you feel worse, and there's the version that makes you feel better. And so this period of this Mercury in Aries extended stay for Gemini North Node, I see it sparking off new examples, new thoughts, new role models even, of people who have a completely different truth than you do, and they are leveraging that version of the truth to create the life of their dreams. And meanwhile, your version of truth is leaving you in this constricted, anxious, depressed place, where maybe even on the surface your life looks great, and yet you're still not able to actually enjoy it. And another quote that I really love that I'll drop here, this is from Marcus Aurelius: our level of happiness is determined by the quality of our thoughts. And so Gemini, it's all about thoughts. Mercury, it's all about thoughts. So what's coming during this extended stay of Mercury in Aries? New thoughts that help you feel better and do what in the process? I've done a small tarot reading for you here that I'll go through quickly. The first card is the Page of Cups. And this card is all about, like, if you really zoom in on the top part of the card especially, it's all about projecting yourself into your dream fantasy, right? There's even a pig with wings. Like, you know, if you've heard the saying, like, yeah, when pigs fly, it's like, again, life is only a reflection of the dial that you've tuned your radio to. So if you want to believe that pigs can fly, the evidence is right around the corner. Okay, so the next card that you got is the Strength card, which I think is so fitting with your Fire South node. Like, you are so much stronger than you give yourself credit for. And I have a feeling this extended stay of Mercury in a fire sign is going to be elevating your strength, right? Like, again, our beliefs can tell us that we're weak, that we're fragile, that we're too sensitive, like whatever the story is that got in there when we were young and impressionable, like we all are in the beginning. You're going to see through that illusion that, like, that's not real. That version of the truth not only makes me feel like shit, but I'm starting to see evidence that actually I'm really strong. And actually, I have a lot more figured out than I previously realized, right? So the next card is the Queen of Pentacles. And really, I think when you would look at the literal reality of your life, like, on the inside, it may feel like a lot is missing, that you don't have anything figured out, that, like, you're not good enough, like whatever the version of the truth might be that you have playing inside of yourself. When you will look at the physical reality, your life is better than you're giving it credit for. There's so much more to be grateful than you're giving yourself credit for. And again, like, that is only one perspective shift away, right? There's something else coming through here called the Deservability Treatment by Louise Hay. You can Google it, find a free copy, print it off. Read it to yourself in the mirror every day for 30 days and tell me that you don't have a completely different perspective on yourself. So the next one is the Three of Wands. And this goes so well with this Page of Cups that came out in the beginning. It's like she is ready to take that surfboard and get in the water. There is a dream version, that Page of Cups, there is a dream version that you can feel. You can see it, you know it, and there's some kind of loop inside your mind that says, I'm not ready, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve it, whatever the version of your story is that's keeping you out of the water. Think about it. If you can rewrite that story, if you can get over and transform into a version of the truth that helps you relax into greater expansiveness, what's waiting for you? You're already standing on the shore of it. It's already right there. You already have the surfboard in hand. You can see exactly where you want to go. The only thing that's holding you back is your own story of I'm not ready. So imagine this Mercury in Aries 2-month period. If that transforms and you realize the truth is like, actually, I think I'm further along the path than I thought I was, life will reflect that to you. I love, another quote I love is, it only takes 20 seconds of insane courage to change your life, right? Like, you don't have to have courage for the whole entire afternoon that you're going to go surfing. You just have to have the courage to walk into the water. And once you feel the water, once you feel the waves, like, the process takes you and you no longer need courage. Courage is what's needed to take the first step. So the last few cards that you have here are the Hermit. And this one I think is perfect for Sagittarius South Node, being that you have so much wisdom inside of you that is already bursting, the light bursting out of this being. Like, you already have that inside of you, and all that's needed, Ace of Cups, is to open up your heart and share it. Again, you are so much further along this path than you give yourself credit for, and the only thing that needs to change is you need to let go of the limiting beliefs that are standing between you and what you want. Five of Cups is your final card of, like, pouring the cup into the ground, having a ceremony of release, releasing the things that are bringing you pain. And at that point, it's like exhale and inhale. When you will exhale, the inhale will just happen naturally, right? Like when you will give yourself a really quick exhale, 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 let go, let go, let go. The new comes in effortlessly. So this is your miniature reading for this extended period of Mercury in Aries. And if any of this is really ringing your bell as far as like rewriting the beliefs that you have about your own personal truth, or even just feeling the difference between what is your authentic truth and what is the programming that you soaked up when you got here that is standing in the way, that if you would rewrite that one belief, life would be bringing you different evidence. If that sounds like something that you are personally feeling called to work on inside of yourself, that is exactly what we're going to do at the free 5-day retreat that I am hosting starting March 16th. The link to register is down in the description. You don't have to come to all 5 days to pop in to whichever days you're free for. And each of those sessions are going to be discovering what is standing in your way. What do you really want? What's your soul whispering to you? And what story is your ego telling you that is stopping you from actualizing your life around your authentic self, your soul's mission, your divine design? You absolutely deserve to live the life that your soul came here to live. I am passionate about activating people onto that path for themselves so that you can become the lighthouse for the other people who are praying, who are lost in their own darkness. They have no way out. They have no tools. They have no language to even understand what they're going through. And you do. You finding your way to this message is proof that you have value that you could be offering into the world. And so how do you unblock? How do you open up the heart wall so that what you have inside of you can naturally flow out? That is exactly what we're going to be doing at the 5-day retreat happening in March. If the dates of that retreat have already passed, you can also use that registration link and it'll send the replays of the retreat straight to your email. So if that's of interest to you, it is there for you to take advantage of. You're also welcome to invite anyone that you want, anyone that you think might enjoy going through that deep dive into their internal process to sort out their authenticity from the bullshit. Okay, so until next time, please take such good care of yourselves and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye. Hello, Cancer North Node or 4th House North Node. Welcome to you all taking in this chapter. For you all, the new spark of clarity that I feel for you with this Mercury in Aries extended stay are new ways to value your emotions and the emotions of those you love most. So this may sound like a small thing, especially I gotta think for a Capricorn South Node that is so earthy, so mission oriented, so legacy oriented. It's like emotions, who's got time for that? And I want to tell you that like our emotions are our direct line to the divine. So there is almost nothing more powerful, more valuable. Like I'm struggling to come up with anything that's more important than your emotions. So this being a time of really sinking into emotional intelligence, potentially studying vulnerability. Brene Brown is a great teacher for that. The book Atlas of the Heart is coming to mind, where like expanding your emotional vocabulary. In that book, Atlas of the Heart, she goes through 87 different emotional experiences, and she does it in a really cool way where it's like places we go when we feel overwhelmed, and then there's like 8 different emotions, and they're kind of like a spectrum of like varying degrees of intensity. Places we go when we feel we're not enough, places we on and on and on. So she has them grouped into like kind of like similar emotions, and that book just like really powerfully wanted to come through. So there's that. But yeah, new ways to value your emotions, new ways, new evidence to see just how important it is that you be tuned into your emotions. And what does that actually mean? It means either being able to see that like you were very intuitive in that situation, and it paid off because you were able to like kind of cut through what was on the surface of the situation and like really deal with the underlying emotions, and that led to like an opening or a success for you and your loved one. On the flip side of that, it could be just as likely that like you aren't in tune with your intuition and it kind of blows up in your face a little bit, so to speak, that like the underlying emotions were there the whole time. And if you had been paying attention to the emotions, you would have seen that what's going on the surface is such a small part of like what's really happening here. So the evidence coming to show to you just how valuable the emotional aspect of life is. And I did a small tarot reading for you here to kind of pull even more of these into focus. And I just have to start with this card, the Moon card, which if you see her, she's like underwater. She's, not really seeing things clearly. She's lost in the emotions of the situation. And we also see up on the surface, there's the black wolf and the white wolf and the big full moon card. So full moons during this 2-month period might be really significant. It's also eclipse season, like we talked about earlier in the video. And so really feeling even potentially overwhelmed by the amount of emotions that are coming to you. And so possibly that's why the Atlas of the Heart book really wanted to come out, to give you some sense of like, number one, like nothing is wrong. Like if we're going to tune into our emotions, like we can't selectively numb them out. So like if we're going to open that door, it's all gonna come. And so early on in that process, absolutely, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but there are ways to make it fun. There are ways to connect to the increased joy that you're able to feel. Like when we shut down our emotions, we also shut down our joy. We shut down our passion. We shut down our ability to love. Like opening up our emotions is going to give us access not only to even more of the negative side of what it is possible to feel in this human vessel, but also the positive side, the fun side, the passionate side, and especially where we're talking about Mercury and Aries, those sparks of fun and play and exhilaration, right? Exhilaration is an emotional experience. And so how fulfilled do you feel? How satisfied do you feel? How exhilarated do you feel? How regularly are you feeling those things? All of that is going to increase the more we tap into our emotions. There's also the Queen of Swords that wanted to come out as part of your message here. And she has clarity. She has mental clarity. And so I think that is really cool, as again, going back to finding ways and role models and sources that you can study. You can learn about emotions simultaneously with opening up the visceral feeling experience of it. And what's that gonna do? Your last two cards are also swords cards. We have the 8 of Swords and the 6 of Swords. The 8 of Swords is, like, if you really look at this image, in the mirror, right, which is on the top side of the card, there's her with the blindfold on, and she's wrapped up in the string, and the crows are pecking at her and holding these strings, and she's so confined and constricted. And then you look at her actually sitting there, there are no crows. There is no string. There is no blindfold. It's this mental chaos that we hold by bottling our emotions. We tell ourselves how we should feel instead of acknowledging and accepting how we do feel. And this 8 of Swords, it's like what's possible by opening up to your emotions is that you set yourself free. You realize that there was never any enemy outside of you. It's only the self-rejection that goes on when we reject our own emotions, when we bottle up and deny our own emotions. That's what leads to the constricted, confined feeling, not anything happening outside of us, right? It's all going on in our mind. And so the 6 of Swords is kind of letting us know that it may feel like there's such a long way to go. Like if you're brand new to emotions and then I give you a book like Atlas of the Heart and there's 87 emotions, you're like, fuck, Like that's like feeling like crossing the Atlantic Ocean, right? Like it can feel like there's such a long way to go, but truly, if you will put one foot in front of the other, if you will find the fun in the process, you will find the other people who don't have such a negative opinion of emotions. Like they also see the value. They also are open to and wanting to understand the messages, the divine messages that are coming through your emotional guidance system. It takes the length out of the journey and instead puts the joy in the journey, because it's not about the destination anyway. It's only ever about closer, 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 closer. Like the horizon is forever moving away, right? There's no such thing as being emotionally intelligent and like there's no more room to grow. No, like there's always going to be ways where we can develop our emotional intelligence. We can get more in touch with our own emotions. We can tune in through our intuition to the emotions of other people. There's always more. The ocean, the journey across the ocean is kind of never ending, especially when you're a Cancer North Node. So finding the places, spaces, sources that can help you to put some fun into that process is exactly what I would recommend during this Mercury and Aries extended visit. And if that sounds like something that you're like, okay, yeah, I can get on board, that's what I want. I want a space where learning about emotions is fun, if that's even possible, right? Dude, I am hosting a free 5-day retreat that is happening on Zoom March 16th through the 20th. And it's open to everyone. And this is essentially what we're going to be looking at, is like, what is really going on inside of you? What is your soul whispering to you? What messages are coming through those emotions? What are you being magnetized towards? Again, through your emotions. Our emotions both will repel us from certain experiences. Like if you have a feeling of dread about something, that is your emotions trying to tell you, get the fuck away from there, right? Like that's not where you're supposed to be. And on the flip side, if you have a feeling of excitement, like that's magnetic, pulling you towards something. A feeling of love, a feeling of attraction, that's pulling you towards something that is where you're supposed to be. So like this emotional guidance system. So we will spend a lot of time during this free retreat tuning in to what's going on inside of you, diving into your inner world, exploring your emotions and decoding them into what is the vision for your life? What is your most authentic self really dreaming of? And how do you actually align your life with that? Right? As Capricorn South Node, you're genius at building something, at setting a goal and reaching that goal. And the thing that actually happens when we'll tune into our emotions is that goal is suddenly worth reaching, right? Like it's suddenly a fulfilling experience every step that you get closer to your goal, instead of suffering through the process, living for being at the top of the mountain, only to get to the top of the mountain and realize there is no there. I thought I would feel different when I got up here. And I only feel resentful that I suffered for the last 6 years to get myself up here, only to not feel as good as I thought it would feel, right? So when we will tune into our emotions, we give ourselves a North Star, a direction to use all of that Capricorn genius to move in that direction and find the satisfaction every step along the way. The joy is in the journey. I would love to have you at the free retreat. If the dates of the retreat have passed, no worries. You can still use that registration link and it'll send the replays straight to your email so that you can still take advantage of what we cover in the retreat. So until next time, I do hope you will take such good care of your beautiful selves, and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye. Hello, Leo North Node or 5th House North Node. Welcome to this mini reading for Mercury's extended stay in Aries. For you all, the spark of new mental clarity that I feel is coming for Leo North Nodes are new ways to boldly shine your light and be seen standing out. And I feel a little triggered by that statement, and I'm not even a Leo North Node. I'm just a Leo Moon. So let's unpack that a little bit, because that process is a lot deeper than it sounds. And if you are any amount of the way along your path of like trying to stand out, trying to shine your light, trying to tap into your creativity, I'm guessing you already understand just how deep this process runs. And so when we talk about boldly shining your light, step number one is even shining your light in the first place, like in the privacy of your own privacy, right? Like, let alone shining it out into the world for other people to see. Like, a conversation is coming here about like wanting to identify, like, how do I even identify what's fun for me? Like, where do I even start? Like, I'm such a cerebral person. Like, I think about things. I don't really know how to have fun. Like, how does one even do that? And so, you know, the fifth house in Leo is a very passionate energy. And I think a lot of times, like when we talk about wanting to find our passion, wanting to find our fun, those are really intense versions of that emotion. But if you'll dial it back down to like the very first little seed, where does fun start? Where does passion start? I would say interest. Right? Like, what are you interested in? And probably you're interested in a lot of things. That Aquarius South Node probably has a ton of different mental hobbies, different subjects that you like to learn about. And so start there with what's interesting to you. It doesn't have to be fun, doesn't have to be like passion, doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, vivid excitement, like technicolor, whatever. Like, what are you interested in? So starting there and spending time there, and like spending time letting yourself like widen out your experience of that interest, setting yourself free within your interest, will naturally build itself into fun. Like, for example, if you take a pot of water and put it on the stove, turn the flame on, 5 seconds in, you're like, it's not boiling. What the hell's wrong with it? It's not working. I better turn the stove off and maybe I'll try again tomorrow. It's like, okay, well, 5 seconds isn't long enough to let the water boil, right? But if you will leave it for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, you're going to have a rolling boil every single time. It's consistent. It's going to work every single time. That's physics of the 3D reality. So if you will put yourself into something interesting, and then you don't yank yourself out of it because, oh, I should be doing something different. I should get back to work. I should be serious and do something productive. Like, let yourself free fall into your interest for 15 or 20 minutes, for 15 or 20 days. And your sense of fun will naturally begin boiling. So letting it have the time to build up to that is definitely part of the process. I've also done a small tarot reading here that I'm going to go through with you. And the very first card that came out is the Two of Wands. And I want to use this as a bit of like a permission slip, as a bit of a like a get out of jail free card. Like, when we talk about new ways to boldly shine your light and be seen standing out, Two of Wands says you don't have to do that. Look she's in her comfort zone. She's looking out the window. She sees something over there that's interesting, that like, yeah, I think I would like to do that. I think I would like to go explore that thing. But she's in her comfort zone and she's free to stay there. Okay? Like, nobody is going to come pry you with a crowbar out of your comfort zone and force you into the limelight. You get to choose that or not. And so right away, just take a breath and let the tension come back out of your shoulders and relax, knowing that, like, if you feel like you need to stay in your comfort zone and stepping into any kind of spotlight is just not for you, you don't have to. Okay? But the second card is the Magician, and this one is all about, you already have the power. You're sitting on it right now. Like, you could visualize exactly what you want and you can create it, right? That Leo North Node creative archetype of like, we are each an extension of God. We are each the creator of our own reality. And you could be doing that right now. So, you know, like, stay in your comfort zone, create the life of your dreams. Totally up to you. The next card, Four of Pentacles, I feel like we're like wobbling back and forth as we go through your tarot reading. So maybe that's a little bit how it feels thinking about these concepts. But the next tarot card is Four of Pentacles, and you see how she's holding on to that purse. Like, she don't want to lose it. And I'm getting like, there's a fear of loss. There's a fear of like, if I stand out, if I, there's a there's a book called The Third Door where, most people are waiting at the front door and there's a huge line wrapped around the front door to like get into the place. They're standing in that line. And then there's a small line over to the side that's like waiting at the VIP entrance. Like if you have special connections, you're waiting at the VIP entrance. Then there's the third door. There's a door around back that like goes into through the kitchen, and like you can get yourself in there like no problem. You just walk right in. Nobody's waiting there. Nobody's checking IDs. Like you can get in that third door. The hard part about the third door isn't finding it. We know it exists. Every building has another door, back door, side door, whatever. It's not hard to find it. It's hard to leave the line of people that's waiting at the front door. Right? Because who's in that line? Your parents, your friends, the people at your church, your community, the people that you know and are connected to. They're waiting in that line. And so when you stand out, that's you walking away from that line to say, like, I'm going to create something different. I'm not going to wait in this line. And they're like, but we do that. We wait in the line. Who do you think you are to go over there and think that you're going to get in through? Only lucky people get in through the third door. Like they want you to get back in line with them, right? So like walking away from the line, being willing to stand out, I get where that could naturally bring up some insecurity, some fears of losing the people that are important to you. So like not to discount that's not going on, right? That's part of the process, is being willing to prioritize your own creative life force energy over the connection to your community. And all I can say is that, like the fun of getting to be the creator of your own life experience is worth it. And again, going back to the Two of Wands, you don't have to do it. You really don't. You can stay in the line. You can stay in the comfort zone. You don't have to be the creator of your reality. You can continue to live the version that got set up for you through the programming that your parents taught you, or whoever were your authority figures when you were younger. You can do that. This is all under your own personal sovereignty. No one's going to force you. But if you want a fulfilling life, if you want to feel the exhilaration, the fun, the wildness, the freedom of being the creator of your own life experience, it means turning inward and letting go of following suit with what the tribe is doing. And that can feel like a really lonely journey. Your next card is the Six of Swords, a really long journey. Like you really don't know, like, what am I gonna get there? Where is there? Is there even a there over there, right? And all I can say is that actually it's a very profitable experience to lean into your authenticity and to allow the universe to reciprocate that. Your last card is the Six of Pentacles, where we get what we give. So whatever we're putting out there is what we're getting back. And when we're putting out there conformity and fitting in and prioritizing our belonging over our freedom, what we get is confinement, period. That's what we're choosing by choosing to conform. And if we will choose freedom to create our reality to be exactly what we want it to be, we will receive in turn the fulfillment, the exhilaration of being free. So it's really a matter of getting to decide for yourself, what is it that you want to receive? What is it that you want to pass down through your lineage? What is it that you want to co-sign for the other people in your world? Like, do you want to be an advocate for conformity and confinement? Because if so, dude, go for it. Stay in your comfort zone, live your life in there, take your last breath in there. Nobody's going to stop you. But if you want to choose something different, then you get to. We each are fully sovereign beings. We each get to decide for ourselves, what reality do we want to create? And if this is a conversation that you are feeling like, wow, like I am ready to dive deep into, number one, figuring out what even do I want my life to be? And number two, how do I work through all of the different blocks that are standing in the way of that, all of the different programming, all the different limiting beliefs that I hold that were taught to me when I was younger by the people standing in that first line? That is exactly what we're doing at my free online retreat that I'm hosting on March 16th through the 20th. You don't have to come to all 5 days to pop into whatever days you're available for, called to, whatever. The link to register is down below in the description box. And if the dates have passed, you can also use that same registration link and it'll send the replays directly to your email. You're also welcome to invite anybody else that you think might enjoy that process of diving deep into their internal world and doing some exploration through what is it that your authentic self really knows to be true, really holds in your heart as a vision for your life, like your soul's mission of why did you come here in the first place? Why did you come here with a Leo North Node? Right? You intended to break free of the programming and to create something that has never been seen before and that won't be seen if you don't create it. And so if that's something that feels like it's really on your heart right now to figure out how to break free into that process, I can't recommend enough that you come join us at the free retreat. I would love to have you there. Until next time, Leo North Node, I hope you take such good care of yourselves and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye. Hello, Virgo North Node or 6th House North Node. Welcome to those taking in this message for the extended stay of Mercury in Aries. And for you all, for Virgo North Node, I feel like the new spark of clarity is around new ways to be of service by putting the love in your heart into tangible action. And I also have done a small tarot reading for you to kind of bring these elements into even more focus. And I want to start with the fact that you got two aces. You have the Ace of Wands and the Ace of Pentacles. And so I feel like this is like exactly what I just said of like new ways to serve by putting the love in your heart into tangible action. It's like a new idea, Ace of Wands, right? That flame burning in her mind. And the Ace of Pentacles, the new way to ground it into the physical and watch those roots grow. Watch the little plants grow out of what it is that you're able to offer, right? Like we think about grounding our love into the physical and what is the purpose of that? Like what is the real benefit of that? And the benefit is that it changes lives. Like what are those little seedlings sprouting up out of the pentacle? That's other people knowing that they are worthwhile, knowing that they are loved, knowing that God loves them or the divine loves them. Like you all have like a straight freaking line to the divine and most people don't. Right? And like these are dark times that we live in. Like the greater the darkness expands, so does the light. And you all have an access point to bring that light into the physical and to share it and show it to other people and like to be of service by sharing that love with other people. There's a quote that I really love by Dr. Carolyn Leaf that says, "Purpose is not what you do, it's what happens inside of other people when you do what you do." So I know that it can be so challenging to put ourselves out there and to possibly set ourselves up for disappointment, or like fear of failure can pop itself up a lot of times when it's like, I've never done this before, I don't know if I can. It's like, I know that anytime we're going to be a beginner, it's going to be scary, it's going to be nerve-wracking, but we also can't become an expert if we're not willing to go through the beginner stage. Another card that you got is the Lovers card. And with this one, I have a couple different interpretations. Number one is that the Lovers is always about a choice. And I just want to give you a permission right off the bat, as far as like, if you truly don't want to step out and be of service, you don't have to. If you want to keep the love that you feel, the connection to the universe that you feel, you want to keep that to yourself, you can. That's a choice, right? Like we each have choice at every step along the way. That's the beauty of humans having free will in this universe, is that you get to choose, right? And so the other side of the choice is that you share the love in your heart with other people who, can't feel it like you can feel it. to you it feels so natural and normal to feel the connection to the divine. And not everybody has that. And so if you want to show up and teach your ways and to offer these little infusions of love into the collective, that's also a choice. And so you get to choose, right? And I think Mercury in Aries, that mental clarity that's sparking, number one, you're going to have new ideas of ways where like, oh, wow, I am already capable. You know, like so often we get it in our head that like, I'm not educated enough. I need a degree and then I can do what it is that I came here to do. And I think what's coming with Mercury in Aries is that you already have way more to offer than you give yourself credit for. And that what you have to offer is way more valuable than you're currently realizing. And so the real question is like with this Ace of Pentacles, it's like when you think inside yourself that like what you have is no big deal, the urgency to share it also is just as not much of a big deal, right? Like it's also not important. It doesn't matter. Therefore, I don't really feel like I need to share it. And what I see coming with Mercury in Aries is like you being able to profoundly understand the value of what you're capable of sharing right here, right now, today. The fact that you're hearing this message, that you lined up with this message, you have something of immense value already within you. And so then the question of holding it back from the world is quite different, right? Like if you're sitting on a gold mine, refusing to share it, is that really the person you want to be? And again, the choice is always yours. The other interpretation I have for the Lovers card is basically that like someone shows up that like really brings it home just how much you have to offer, just how lovable you are, just how generous you could be with the resources, the immense love that you carry within you. Like you could share it, and someone almost like showing up and like magnetizing it up out of you. And then in their reflection of like they're receiving that love, you see like, wow, I'm powerful. I have a lot of love inside of me. And then again, all of a sudden it's like, are you really going to withhold that from the world? Like, why? Why are you withholding it? You know, like that question is going to become more and more important as you sit on this pile of gold that, you know, didn't used to seem like it was worth anything. And so then hiding yourself away and not taking action, like, meh, it's no big deal. I don't have anything to share anyway. Well, when somebody shows up and is like, hey, dude, you got a shit ton of stuff inside of you that's like already worth so much, then hiding it is like, again, can you live with that? If so, great, that's your choice, and you get to decide. You also have the Justice card. And this I see again with a couple of different interpretations. Again, it's very interesting that they both have like the reflector in them, as far as like there's a reflection of you seeing the karma of if you have already started taking action and showing up in the world and sharing your love because you have it to give, and so you give it and you give it and you give it, there's a reciprocation of positive karma headed your way that is going to blow your mind and possibly the minds of the people around you, as far as you becoming an example, a role model for what's possible when you will give with an open heart and just let life reciprocate to you. So the justice being that you are being rewarded, that is what is in reciprocation with you. The other option is that you are withholding, that you're not giving, that you're not seeing the value of what it is that you have to share. And then the justice starts to look like not receiving, right? Like the flow of energy to you getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And what is that? It's showing a mirror reflection of what you're giving. So when you give nothing of what you have to offer, life is reciprocating that to you. So the karma of the Justice card is going to show you kind of what you've been doing so far. what you've already done with the gifts that you have. And like I said, if you're already sharing them, expect huge rewards. And if you're not already sharing them, expect for anything that you're currently receiving to drop down to a trickle. And what I'm guessing is that most of you watching this message have already started sharing, that you've already come pretty far along that journey, that you've recognized like that the experience of the person who magnetized the love up out of you, that was a while ago. And since then, you've taken a lot of steps to build on that and to offer even more of your gifts out into the world. And that this version of this Mercury's extended stay in Aries is going to spark the next level of how you want to share and how you want to be of service, how you want to scale what you're offering to reach even more hearts and souls. And if this is something that is ringing your bell, I would love for you to join us at the free retreat that I am hosting March 16th through the 20th. You don't have to come to all 5 days. You can come to whichever days you're available for, whichever days you're feeling drawn into. And if the dates of the retreat have passed, you can also go through the registration link and sign up, and it'll send the replays straight to your email account. So you can still take advantage of what we covered in the retreat. And what we're doing in the retreat is tuning in to the value of what you already have inside of you and looking at what are the limiting beliefs of why you're holding yourself back, right? Like the only thing that holds us back is fear. And so fear of what? Fear of losing the people you love, fear of standing out, being singled out, being, torn down, being hated on or attacked. Like these fears are not unjustified. Like that's carried within the cellular memory of the human genome. Like we each carry this wound that says if you break away from the tribe, if you set an example that's different from what the tribe is doing, that's not safe. Venturing into the unknown is not safe. So working with our fear brain and learning ways to cope and to soothe our nervous system is very much one of the pieces that we're going to focus on in the retreat. Another piece that's especially relevant to you guys is to work on our worthiness. And again, that goes back to how much do you think what you have to give? What's that worth to the world, to the people who are going to receive it, right? When we believe it's worth nothing, it's really easy to just throw it in a closet and not ever share it. But when you realize that that's a gold mine that you're sitting on, it gets a lot harder to live with yourself putting it in the closet and keeping it from the rest of the world. So if this is something that is wiggling something inside of you, you want to come hang out with us at the retreat, I would love to have you there. Until next time, I do hope you take such good care of yourselves, Virgo North Node. I'll see you soon. Bye. Hello, Libra North Node or 7th House North Node. For you all and Mercury's extended stay in Aries, sparking new clarity, what I see for the Libra North Node are new ways for collaborating with others, valuing the different skills and contribution of each participant. And what I really want to emphasize here is that for Libra North Node, while we have the North Node transiting in Aries, you all are going through your cross nodal return or your opposite North Node return, however you want to say that. You're going to have the Aries North Node transit connecting with your Aries South Node, and you'll have the Libra South Node transit connecting with your Libra North Node. So that cross-nodal return period is always a turning point. And we each go through one of those every 18 and a half years. Your last one was 18 and a half years ago, if you want to think back to what kind of a turning point might have been playing out for you at that time. That might be helpful for understanding what is this larger turning point that's happening during the 18 months of the Aries North Node transit. But during these 2 months and change of Mercury's extended stay in Aries and retrograding in the second half of Aries, so especially if your nodes are in the second half of Aries and Libra, you'll be really impacted by that extended stay of Mercury. For you all, I see it as kind of a and pardon the language here, but I'm going to go super direct on you and say it's going to be a period of kind of getting out of your own way, of seeing that Mercury mental clarity piece, of seeing clearly where you've been standing in your own way. And I think when it comes to Aries South Node, typically where you're in your own way is kind of believing that you are on an island all by yourself. You got to do it all. You got to be it all. You got to bring everything to the table that's needed. And that's just not true, right? Like, we're all here. We all have a completely unique energy. We all have unique skills. We have unique passions. We have unique talents. We have unique interests. Every single person in your life has something unique to offer. And so when we talk about new ways for collaborating with others and valuing the different skills and contribution of each participant, in order to see their skills as valuable, we have to personally understand what are the skills that you bring to the table? What are the skills that you have, and how are those skills valuable? And then there's almost like a releasing of like, this is what I offer, and these are the gaps that I don't really offer that. I don't, like, for example, like you want to write a book, but you think like, well, my vocab's not that great and my grammar's for shit. And so like, I can't write a book because I'm not good enough at these pieces of it. And it's like, you could still write the book and then partner up with somebody who is just like a beast when it comes to grammar. A grammar beast, is that a thing? Obviously, I just named it. So like, you see what I mean? Like, it's thinking that you can't do something because I don't have that skill. It's like, right, that is your invitation into partnership and collaboration with other people. And so the getting out of your own way piece extends to being able to see that just because you don't have that skill doesn't mean that you should stop doing what you want to do. That means you should partner with somebody who does have that skill. And so much of this comes down to learning to appreciate others when they are different from you. Instead of, and this is kind of an unevolved perspective, and so I apologize if you're, really far past this, but like, instead of feeling threatened that somebody else is good at something that you're not good at, the tendency would be to look at their skills and be like, wow, that's amazing. I could never do. That's so great that you have that ability, right? And like, really play them up and give them a boost of confidence that like, that skill that they're offering is valuable. And how do you know it's valuable? Because you don't have it. Right. And so there's I think can be a tendency to beat up on yourself for the things that you aren't, and to get hung up on, well, I don't have this and I don't have this and I don't have this, so therefore I can't do it. And it's about that Libra North Node is about kind of shifting into a team dynamic, into a team focus, into a collaborative focus that says those gaps are exactly where you're supposed to be collaborating with other people. And what's possible? What's possible when you will take your courage, your confidence, your bold, assertive nature, and bring a big group of people along with you who are going to fill in all of those gaps? What's possible? So many things. So I have a small tarot reading here that we'll go through pretty quickly. But your first card is the 10 of Pentacles. And this is kind of like a big, happy, abundant family kind of vibe, like, basically like a rising tide lifts all ships. So if you have an idea for something that like really lights you up and brings you to life, you are absolutely seeing that vision for a reason. And any pieces that you're like, well, but I would never know where to even begin managing the finances, or I don't know a thing about marketing. Great. Now you're starting to see those are the team members that are going to fit into it with you. The next card you have are the Lovers card. And this card can be about manifesting your partner, which as a Libra North Node, like that's definitely part of what you're here to evolve into, is kind of like a divine union style relationship. And so the Lovers card could indicate that that person is right around the corner for you, or that there's a deepening in your relationship of, basically seeing where you have divine brilliance and where the other person has divine brilliance, again, even if theirs is completely different or even opposite of what you offer. Another option for the Lovers card, though, is that it always represents a choice. And I think when it comes to this mental clarity, Mercury and Aries, being able to see where you're standing in your own way, you have the choice of continuing to see it as like, I'm deficient, I don't have what I need to move forward, or you can make the choice to literally change your beliefs of like everywhere that you know that you don't have the skills to fill that gap, choose to believe that that is a sign that that's the kind of person that's going to come into your sphere of awareness so that you can partner together. So choosing what you want to believe on that front is always up to you. The next card you have is the Justice card, which is very much about balance and reciprocation and kind of like the karmic nature of karma. Is not a dirty word, by the way. It just means consequences. So like what you put out, you get back. And I have a feeling that the people that are watching this message have actually put out a lot of really generous, kind-hearted, loving energy, transfusing your courage into other people for their benefit. And like that shit pays dividends. Your next card is the Six of Cups. And if we see here at the top of the card, it's a small boy and a puppy. And then at the bottom of the card, it's a grown man and a grown full-sized dog. And how I think about the Six of Cups is like, the relationships that we're willing to invest into will later invest back into us. They'll later be there to support us. And so when we think about the Justice card and the Six of Cups, there's like this good karma paying off, like the consequences of how much you've opened your heart and opened your ability to appreciate other people. The more you appreciate them, the more they're going to appreciate you, right? Like that's just how reciprocation works. Like that wave of reciprocation has to start somewhere. And a lot of people walk around this world beating the drum of I'm not appreciated. And it's like, well, how often do you appreciate other people? And so the more we put out, the more comes back to us. And I've mentioned a couple of times this transfusion of confidence and transfusion of courage. And to me, that's one of the coolest aspects of the Aries South Node. And your next card is the Queen of Wands. And you see here, like she is literal magic. Like she is walking to the beat of her own drum. She has everything inside of her that she needs to create exactly what she wants. And that is part of this getting out of your own way vibe that I'm talking about, is like realizing that like no matter what you have inside of you, it's exactly enough. It's exactly right. And every bit of anything that you think is missing is just what the other people are going to be bringing. So what do? We celebrate. We dance. We find our joy. We recognize that there are partnerships and that there are significant life events happening that are bringing us to a place of fulfillment. And that literally all we ever have to do, Eight of Swords, is free ourselves from our own limiting ideas, our own limiting beliefs about how it should be, right? It's never about what you think it should be. It's always about what it is, what nature is. And the truth is, if there was supposed to be only you, you'd be alone on this planet, right? Like there's a whole slew to the tune of about 8 billion unique human beings on this planet. And not every single one of them has to be part of your tribe, has to be your partner. But your partner also does not have to be just like you. And really, if anything, we grow the most when we surround ourselves with people who are different than us. As much as we can tolerate those differences and even go so far as to value and appreciate those differences, that's where, again, the better we are at appreciating people, the more of that appreciation is going to come back to us. And if this is ringing your bell, if this sounds like, wow, yeah, I can see how that would be really helpful, like to really open myself up to more community, to appreciating more differences in people, I am hosting a free retreat that starts on March 16th and is lasting through the 20th, and we'll meet for an hour each day in this communal space, in this group space, to do this work together of evolve our soul into who we came here to be, right? Like Michelangelo says, like the statue is already in the marble. Becoming our most authentic self is never about like transforming out of who we already are, right? Every single bit of your current wiring is exactly perfect. And becoming our most authentic self, living our most fulfilling life, is really about chipping away the pieces of the marble that just aren't really us and excavating the statue. And so that's what the free retreat is about. I would love to have you there if that sounds like fun. The link to register is in the description. If the dates of the retreat have passed, you can also go through that same registration link to receive the replays straight to your inbox so that you can still take advantage of what those sessions are. Dear friends, I really wish you the best of this extended stay of Mercury in Aries, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, bye. Hello, Scorpio North Node or 8th House North Node, either way, for you all and the sparks of new clarity that are bound to happen with this extended stay of Mercury in Aries. I am seeing for Scorpio North Node new ways of being intimate with self by valuing your inner depths and complexities. Okay, and right off the bat, I want to say that, you know, we as heavy Taurus energy, you typically value peace. You value like being at peace, being in harmony. That Venus ruled South Node, like peace is kind of king and queen and jack and court justice. Peace is everything, okay? And one of the most destabilizing, deharmonizing things that we can do is to dive deep within ourselves, because there we find the full spectrum of human emotion, which is what Scorpio represents. And if you've ever heard the phrase, we can only meet others as deeply as we've met ourselves. So if we are living on the surface, so to speak, if we're valuing how flat and calm the lake is, we're also depriving ourselves and our relationship with others of the full essence of who we are and what we're capable of. And with Scorpio, that has to do a lot with transformation, right? Like the phoenix rising from the ashes, the idea that you would be able to eliminate the old, which gives birth automatically to the new. And you think about just how powerful that really is. Like, how many things in this world do you wish could be more peaceful, right? Like, how many places do you see this suffering that just breaks your heart and you wish you could do something about it? You can. And how do you do that? You transform it within yourself first. And you do that by, instead of valuing how serene and peaceful the top of the lake is, you get in the water and you dive down and you explore the caves underneath. You explore like what spaces have been carved out within your being, within your psyche. And like, you could also think about that, like, you know, I think of pain as an expander of consciousness. And so what carves a cave out underneath the surface of your lake? A painful, traumatic experience. And so when we get in the waters, when we get intimate with ourselves and we look deeply within ourselves, what we're bound to find is something really painful, possibly something that we're terrified of, and that the reason we would prefer to stay on the surface and stay on the shore, even like not even get in the water, is because it's scary in there. And again, you think about like all the things in the world that you wish you could change, and changing something without facing it is all but impossible, right? Like, if we're just talking about it, that's just lip service. To actually transform it, we have to go meet it face to face. And when we want more intimacy, more love, more connection, more expansion in our lives, where do we find that? We find it inside of ourselves. We find it by being willing to dive deep into our own fears, into our own painful past experiences. And if you're thinking that sounds dangerous, it kind of is. You know, like, it's possible with those water north nodes, like, you're opening up into a whole ocean of shit that most likely you've been repressing for good reason, because it hurts and it's painful and you're protecting yourself from it. And so one of the best pieces of advice I can give you as an Earth South node is really remembering that like it's never about just shaving off that part of ourselves, that Taurus part of ourselves, that like you have that ability to be really super grounded for a reason. So as you dive into the depths of your caves and go exploring underneath the surface of the water, be sure to have a rope tied around yourself so that you know how to like trace your way back and like get back to oxygen, get back to solid ground, right? And so that is one of the pieces that I think is one of the main gifts that a Scorpio North Node is here to help us with, is how to be grounded and open to the full range of human emotions all at the same time, right? And so what am I really saying? I'm talking about like practicing your grounding practices. And when you find yourself being overwhelmed with the emotion that you're exposing, pull yourself out. Right? Like there's no gold medal that there's no brownie points that somebody's going to give you for drowning in your own waters, right? Like getting lost in deep, dark depression and being there for days and days and days and months and years and all of that. Being able to recognize like, I need to stand on solid ground. I am feeling a lot of things. And so I am going to go earth. I'm going to put my bare feet on the planet. I'm going to do some yoga. I'm going to come back into my body. I'm going to come back into this present moment. And I'm going to stop exploring those caves for the rest of the day, maybe the rest of the week, maybe the rest of the month, however long you need to come back into your own peaceful tranquility. That's always there for you. And you can open up and expand by diving back into the water whenever you're ready. So I have a small tarot reading for you, and the first card, of course it is, the first card is the Queen of Pentacles, and this is, I think, such a perfect card for that Taurus South Node of like, you know how to find solid, stable, grounded connection within yourself, right? Like it may not be the most expansive place, but that's okay, at least you can breathe. And that's worth a lot, right? Because the value you add is in breathing and existing. So as you open up into more and more and more of what power your emotions have to offer you, remember you always have the option and ability to come back to that super grounded center that you naturally carry. The second card is the Sun. And this light bursting forth on this particular sun card. I absolutely love this and all the color and everything. It's like I love Brene Brown's quote, like we cannot selectively numb. So like if you're not willing to dive into your waters and experience the full range of human emotions, like if you're numbing your pain, if you're staying out of your painful experiences, then you're also muting your joy. And so for your full light to shine, there is a certain part of you that does need to open up into all of your emotional range. And there's a book that wants to be mentioned here called Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown. And it's a way to expand your emotional vocabulary so that you do have an idea of what all of these various emotions mean. In that book, she goes through 87 emotional experiences, and she tells you at the beginning of the book, that's not even all of them. We narrowed the list down to 87. There's way more than that. And so, most people walk around with like happy, sad, and mad, and like that's their emotional range. But there are so many others, and really what our emotions are doing, it's our unconscious mind communicating with us. Another way to say that, it's our higher self communicating with us. So when you're willing to feel and presence every single emotion that might ever move through your body and then decode what is it telling you, that's freaking powerful. That's your full life force energy wanting to burst forth from your beingness. And the next one is the Six of Swords. And I love this card in this conversation because especially, the gap between being on the shore and thinking about the full depth of the lake and all the caves and all the nooks and crannies to explore, it can feel like that is a very long journey. And like, I'm going to dive into the lake and I'm going to explore for 15 minutes. And like, what does that even do? It's not even doing anything. It's like, okay, Maybe you could say that, and if you want to believe it, there's nothing I can do to stop you. But those 15 minutes will add up. There's a cumulative effect that, like, if you will start walking the path, and don't stop, you will eventually reach another level of your beingness that has that capacity developed, that's just normal. That, like, at that point, it's not even so much that your inner caves are a mystery to you. It's like you can watch them being carved out in real time. And that's freaking cool. So that's an option if you start walking and don't stop. This card has come out in so many of the piles, and it is the Knight of Wands, and it is about finding the fun in this, right? Like finding the joy, finding the unbridled passion and enthusiasm. And I think that's like so perfect considering Mars in Aries, right? Like, or sorry, not Mars in Aries, Mercury in Aries. That there can be fun in this process. And again, going back to the Sun card, like, it might feel like what you're greeted with when you dive into the water, like it's cold and it's painful and it's uncomfortable, but really, like, within just a short amount of time of practicing this, you can truly find your way to the fun of the exploration of diving into your own inner depths. And the last card is the Five of Swords. And again, we just saw the Six of Swords. So this idea of preconceived notions of what emotions are, of, you know, all the stories, like thinking of like keep a stiff upper lip and, you know, real men don't cry, and like all kinds of fucking bullshit that is in our culture that will try to cut you off from your own emotions. And why do they want to do that? Because our emotions are our power. Okay, so these ideas that are baked into your psyche at this point, that are part of what blocks you off from your emotions, that's part of what needs to be excavated. And the tip I have for you there is to take a piece of paper and write at the top, emotions are ... and then number 1 through 10, and sit with yourself in a quiet space and fill in 10 things. Fill in that sentence, emotions are. Complete that sentence 10 times. What are the preconceived notions that you have around what emotions even are? What do you think they are? Because every bit of that is going to dictate your willingness to open up to them. And so no matter how open you already are, it would be worthwhile to go through that exercise and see what's left to be excavated. And if you're into this conversation about excavating your emotions, I do have to tell you about the free retreat that I'm hosting on March 16th through the 20th. We'll be meeting on Zoom for an hour every day, totally free. You can come to whatever days you're available to attend. If the dates of the retreat have passed, you can also follow through that registration link to receive the replays straight to your inbox so that you can still take advantage of what was offered in those sessions. And this is what we're going to be doing, is opening up into even more of your divine essence, your unique divine design, what's waiting for you within your own being. You contain every single thing that you need inside of you already. And how do we open up to that? We deprogram ourselves, much like a cult deprogrammer is working through the brainwashing of what the person went through inside the cult, letting them like come back to reality, so to speak. We are deprogramming ourselves from the social conditioning that each of us was raised with that keeps us disconnected from our own true power. So if you are ready to connect to even more of your power, this retreat is a can't miss. Again, the link is in the description box. Scorpio North Node, this has been my pleasure to connect with you like this. I hope you'll take really good care of yourselves. Maybe I'll see you soon. And until next time, bye-bye. Hello, Sagittarius North Node or 9th House North Node, either way. For you all, with Mercury's extended stay in Aries and the sparks of new clarity that are bound to come forth, for Sagittarius North Node, I see new ways to explore by asking new questions and seeking out new knowledge. So when I think about Gemini South Node, and I mean this with all due respect, I think echo chamber, where what we already know gets fed back to us, and then we know it a little bit more, and then we it gets fed back to us and we know it a little bit more. And like, there's like self-fulfilling prophecies that are happening with that Gemini South Node of like what you believe to be true. Life will show you evidence of whatever you believe to be true. So if you want to see something different go on in your life than what's already happening, it's a matter of shifting your belief system, finding new knowledge that lets you develop new beliefs, and then life will show you evidence of those new beliefs. And then you know it a little bit more, and then the belief is stronger and the evidence gets bigger. And then you know it a little bit more and that belief gets even stronger, and then the evidence gets even bigger. So seeking out new knowledge, asking new questions, like, is it even possible that I could be doing something different than I already am? Yes, it is possible. But do you believe that? Right? There's a quote I love that says, like, you can have anything that you want, but you got to give up one thing in order to have it. And that is the belief that you can't have it, right? Our beliefs are everything. And so in that echo chamber, there's self-fulfilling prophecy, echoing of our current beliefs, giving us evidence that that's all true. And then we just stay there and we repeat and we repeat. It's like a big loop over and over forever, right? Until there's a pattern interrupt, until there's new knowledge presented that gives you an idea that like, wow, I think something beyond my current beliefs might actually be true. And when you start exploring that new truth, you find new evidence, which gives you even more space to explore that truth, and you find even more evidence. So like, this is the process of what I think is going to really be kicked up into high gear for you guys as we have Mercury in Aries. Aries and Sagittarius are both fire signs. So like that Mercury in Aries is going to be trining your Sagittarius North Node, trining being a very supportive, sending of energy. Like as your Mercury in Aries, that new spark of clarity, it's going to encourage you and give you even more courage to do these outer explorations beyond what you already know, beyond what you already live. So this could be quite a powerful turning point in terms of you all opening up to what it is that you really came here to live. And to me, that's like super freaking exciting. And so I have a very small tarot reading that we'll go through here pretty quickly. And your first card is the 10 of Wands. And what I want to say is like, you've lived in the echo chamber long enough. Okay. You've walked that path. You've proven a lot of things that you thought you needed to prove. And you've proven just how strong you are, just how much you can carry. You have shown yourself and others, as much as you've shown, that you are capable. And there's like a completion point here where it's like you no longer need to do any of that. Like you no longer have to jump through those hoops that you thought you had to jump through. You literally get to explore whatever truth you think is real. And your second card is the 9 of Wands, which to me always is a card of strength. Again, like you are stronger than you give yourself credit for. You're more capable of exploring your outer limits than you give yourself credit for. And what is possible when you are willing to do that? We have the Sun card and this bursting of light and life force energy. Like with your Fire North Node, there is a huge burst at some point with those Fire North nodes of like, if you've had it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where like it literally feels like your divine essence comes to life inside of your being. And if you don't have a resonance with that experience, I do think that during this Mercury in Aries period, it could be possible for you to have that shift to where you open up and you allow the divine light that is you and only you to shine forth into this world. If you don't shine it, nobody will, because nobody else is you, right? And that's the danger of the echo chamber, is listening to what other people think is true. It may totally be true for them. And just because you divert from that experience doesn't make them wrong. It just means that you're walking a different way. You're honoring your divine light. Your next card is the Temperance card. And with this one, I always think balance. I think alchemy. I think blending of energies, and any of the the air south nodes. So whether you have the Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius south node, there is a talent for communication. There's a talent for talking to people. There's a talent for building rapport and building relationships with a wide variety of types of people. Like you could talk to anybody kind of thing. And when I see this Temperance card, I think you don't lose that. Just because you step more fully into your own truth doesn't mean you have to shove it down anybody's throat. Doesn't mean that you can't still connect with and honor the truth and life experience of every single person that you meet. There's like an alchemy that happens by you stepping more forward into your truth. You're actually able to enrich the people around you even further. And again, if you have had your opening to where your fire burst forward into your beingness, I would love to hear from you in the comments. And you know exactly what I mean, where like kind of a rising tide lifts all ships sort of deal. Like when you are living more in your own divine light, you are granting permission to people through your aura that they also get to explore their own personal truth. And I love that this card came out for you guys. The Page of Swords being like new ideas, new light bulb moments, the light coming on, going along with these Mercury and Aries sparks of new clarity that are letting you explore new facets of truth, new knowledge, new questions are occurring to you. Like I think about, sometimes we don't even have the question, let alone the answer. And so I see potentially this Mercury and Aries period giving you new questions to think about, right? So maybe you live through an experience where it doesn't give you a new answer, it gives you a new question. And I personally have the belief, and you may not, that's okay, but I have the belief that when you experience a new question, that is like the cup, basically, that the water is about to be poured into, the water being the answer, right? It's very difficult, I would say all but impossible, to receive an answer if you don't already have the question. And so that experience of manifesting a new question is so powerful because now you have a vessel that's ready to receive the answer. So don't be overwhelmed if you are just flooded with new questions during this Mercury and Aries period. Partly because Seven of Cups, we never really know what will spill forward from the experiences that we live, from the questions that we pursue, the new truths, the new knowledge. Like, for example, a perfect example of this, I downloaded the inspiration it was like July or August of 2020, that I want to work with a life coach. That was just like burning, this new idea that like, I need a life coach. And so I go to my friend, the only life coach that I know, and I'm like, who do you recommend? Like, who should I contact? And she gave me the name of a person. I reach out to this person and we started working together. And at my first session, she pulls up my natal chart and she says, have you ever heard of natal charts? And I say, no. And she's like, it's your unique astrology. And that was my introduction to astrology in August of 2020. And like, what did I want? I wanted a natal chart. I wanted a life coach. That was the cup I chose. Was I want to work with a life coach. And what spilled out of that cup was astrology and finding my soul tribe, feeling like I found kind of just another layer of like, what am I even here for? Teaching astrology is one of my favorite things to get to do, making videos like this. And if I hadn't found astrology, I wouldn't have found out that like, wow, North nodes, that's kind of my specialty. I really love that. So like, you never know what will spill out of these ideas. And so walking with it and being willing to explore the outer edges of your truth and go with new ideas and see where they'll lead you is such a powerful experience. Because you already have, your last card is the Magician, you already have within you every single thing that you need to create the life you want. And these little shifts along the way, these new ideas popping in, like nothing changed when I had the idea that I want a life coach, right? Like she didn't make me into another person. She gave me new information that unlocked even more of my own power that was already within me. She gave me these pieces of information that made me feel validated in who I already knew myself to be. And so much of your power is laying dormant inside of you. And I know if you're watching this message, you have already unlocked a lot of your power to even be here in this moment, but there is so much more under the surface that is making its way into your right here, right now reality. And so if any of that is really ringing your bell, I have to tell you about the free retreat that I'm hosting March 16th through the 20th. We'll meet on Zoom for an hour each day, and this is what we're working on, is bringing forward these little ideas, these new perspectives, this new way of looking at it, this little piece of information that can create a monumental shift, that can open up an entire new reality in front of you, that, like, you know, the current horizon that you can see gets extended back 10 million miles with even just one new idea of what's possible. Right? Jupiter rules Sagittarius. And when I think Jupiter, I think infinite possibilities, the great expander. Everything can get bigger. And so this idea of coming to the free retreat, seeing what little nuggets are there for you and taking those little pieces of information and expanding your reality into something that feels like the life you were born to live. This is a space that is there for you. Again, it's totally free. You can invite whoever you want. If you have friends that you want to bring to the event and go through it together. Also, if the dates have passed, if it's past March 16th through the 20th, you can also go through that same registration link and have the replays of the event sent straight to your email. So that is there for you if you want to take advantage of it. Sagittarius North Node, thank you so much for listening. Until next time, I hope you'll take really good care of yourselves, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Okay, bye. Hello, Capricorn North Node or 10th House North Node, either way. With Mercury's extended stay in Aries and the sparks of new clarity that are happening for us all, for Capricorn North Node, I see you all discovering new ways to step out into the world to build your own dream rather than someone else's. And this is a big job if you're, especially for a Cancer South Node, but especially where, you know, Cancer, Capricorn are two of the cardinal signs, and Aries, Libra are the other two cardinal signs. So the fact that we have the North Node transiting in Aries means that it is squaring your nodes. So this is something of a turning point as far as you discovering what your dream even is. What is it that you want to build? And possibly figuring out, like, what are the steps? Who are the role models? What is the structure that I need to put in place? What's the foundation? What's the building that's going to go on top of the foundation, etc.? Like, how do you actually build the thing that you really are dreaming about in your heart and soul? And I also have a small tarot reading for you here that we'll go through pretty quickly. And the first card is the Queen of Wands. And so with this, I want to say, like, number one, you are magic. You and your connection to your emotions, the intuition that gives you. Intuition is a word that I've heard a lot lately. Your ability to discern truth in terms of listening to your own intuition and your own emotions is basically unparalleled. Like, that Cancer South Node has a wicked, and I mean that in the best possible way, a wicked good sense of intuition and emotions and what is right for you and for other people. And so when we think about, like, you being magic and you having everything that you need, every ounce of power that you need already inside of you, the you know, the cultural messaging that we can hear so often is that you need to become something, right? Like, you need a degree, or you need the training, you need the experience, you need the title, you need these externally validating items in order to feel like you are enough to do the thing that you were born to do. And I'm here to tell you that you're already enough. You already have everything inside of you that you need, and it's just a matter of how do you channel that into the world, and how do you stop getting in your own way, right? Like, how do you talk yourself out of it? What rules and boundaries do you put around yourself that are like, see, that's why I can't do it, because I don't have XYZ on a piece of paper. And it's like, you don't need that, but when we believe the conditioning, we end up cutting ourselves off from our own power. So I see this Mercury extended stay in Aries really showing you just how powerful you already are. Okay, that like not only do you have it, but that it's fun and that it's easy. Okay, it's not as hard as you think it's going to be. And part of what cuts us off from doing the thing is that we're married to the idea that it has to be hard. And what if that's part of what you're here to show us, right? Like each nodal group has a gift to make to the collective. And part of what I think Cancer South Node is here to teach us is just how easy it really is to create. Like, all you got to do is listen to the whispers of your soul. All you got to do is listen to your emotions and then ground that shit into the physical and like, boom, you're done, right? So it's actually really easy. And it's these ideas that it has to be hard that cut us off from doing the thing in the first place. Your next card are the Lovers, Major Arcana 6, and this has two different interpretations. And the first one is that you could actually be manifesting a new partner or have a deepening and opening happening in your relationship with your existing partner. Basically, someone to reflect back to you just how powerful you already are. So if you already have a partner that is reflecting to you that you are wicked powerful, and again, I mean that in a good way, that you are really powerful, then there's a deepening in that relationship. If you're in a relationship where, if anything, they're reflecting to you that you're too much, you're not enough, you're, that you need to be all these things that you're not, like if they're reflecting to you that you're not right already, this could be a wobbly time for like, is that really this? Well, and the second interpretation of the Lovers, like, is you get to make the choice. Like, is that really the kind of person that you want reflecting you back to you? Because the people that we spend the most time with are the people that we will grow to become. So someone who's around you regularly who does not believe in the powerful creature that you are is somebody who is cutting you off from your power. And technically, they are not doing it. They are encouraging you to believe that you are less. And you cut yourself off from your power by believing that they are correct. And so that it's never about the other person who's there. In this case of like, a partner coming to you who reflects just how powerful you are, they're just giving you information. And whether you choose to believe it or not, again, that's always the choice that you have within you. The next card that we have is this Five of Pentacles. And I see within this, like, especially when we tie it into the Cancer South Node, that it could be a feeling of stuckness, a feeling of isolation, a feeling of fear of going out into the world. All of these things are very common with Cancer South Nodes. There's nothing wrong with you if you feel that way. Being scared of the world kind of comes with the territory of that Capricorn North Node. And so we see on the card, though, that the key is there. The key is leaning up against the wall. The lock is right there. Like, basically, she can let herself out at any time. And I love to interpret this card, and this is one of the tips that I'll give you as far as like kind of moderating this experience for yourself. Going out into the world as a Capricorn North Node can be very overwhelming. And okay, if we know that, then when it gets overwhelming, there's not this mental story that we have to make around it that says, I must be doing it wrong, right? See, I'm not cut out for this. Like, it's overwhelming me. This is why I don't ever do. Like, if it's overwhelming, go back home. If it's overwhelming, like, retreat back into your shell, Cancer, the crab, like, retreat back into your sphere of safety and recenter, calm your nervous system. Find your inner connection to your higher self via your emotions and your intuition. And when that intuition guides you to move back out into the world, use the key that's right there next to the door and go out again, right? And when you practice going out into the world, coming back home when you need to, and then go back out into the world and coming back home when you need to, like, it's like inhale and exhale. There's a normal expansion and contraction to the creative process. So like, it's not out in the world, 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 out in the world. Like, no, like out in the world, back home and recharge. out in the world, back home and recharge. So like there's never, or there absolutely doesn't have to be ever an expectation that you're going to go out into the world and like that's the end of the story, right? It's always going to be a balance, a moderation of your energy. And again, as far as like what gifts are the Cancer South Node here to teach us is like how to take care of your energy, how to create a home base that recharges and refills your cup. And so you being out in the world and being willing to acknowledge and, name that like my batteries are drained. My brain is fried. My nervous system is jacked up. I need to take some space. I need to go charge back up. Like you demonstrating that, being a role model for what it looks like is such medicine for our current culture that says hustle, 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 hustle. Like the 4-letter word that's the dirtiest in Western culture is rest. Okay. So like you all have a lot more skills in that department of like how to bring your energy back into balance. And so to think that, you are going to go out into the world and build your dream and you're going to demonstrate what it looks like to have a healthy balance between work and home, between giving and receiving. So this is part of that process. And I also love this card for you guys, the 7 of Wands. I love that bubble around her. And then there's all of these wands pointed at her, but the bubble is containing her beautiful energy. And, when you are feeling fully encapsulated in your own energy, circled in your own divine protection, it's time to move into the world. And when you start to feel the energy of other people poking into your space, setting your nervous system on fire, like whatever it feels like for you guys, like it's time to go home and like reseal the barrier of your energy, right? It's like that's part of going out into the world and building your dream is to demonstrate how often does a human being need to take a break? How often does a human being need a hot meal, a nice rest, a good bath, a good walk in nature, some psychic hygiene, whatever that looks like for you? That like you shining your light out into the world, part of the gift is in the withdrawal, is in going back home because this is too much, and like how many people are desensitized to the too much, desensitized to like how overwhelming the world really is. And, it goes along great with your last card, the Hanged Man, taking the pause. The pause is powerful. Resting is powerful. Taking a moment to step away, get some perspective, look at things from a different angle, talk to your loved ones, go back and like get a good night's sleep. Everything looks different in the light of day. Like you know how to take that pause. You know how to come into your own heart space and feel back into, wait, why was I doing this? Like it's when you get out in the world, it's so easy to get caught up on the hamster wheel of like, go, 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 go. But like coming back home and taking our own space, it's like it allows us to feel back into, why was I even doing this in the first place? And then when you reconnect to the why, when you reconnect to the love that you have to give, and that is the reason that you even want to go out there and give what you're giving in the world, you reconnect to that. You encircle yourself in that divine light and you go again. Like both of these cards show that light coming forth out of the being, out of the center of your beingness. There is a divine light, and that is what you're here to give. That's what you're here to ground in the physical world, that Capricorn North Node, building of your dream. What is your dream? Probably it has something to do with lots more people feeling loved, lots more people feeling nurtured, lots more people feeling like they have a home. They have a sense of home inside themselves. They have a safe place to go in the world. Like you have such generous, loving, nurturing energy. And by all means, take such good care of yourselves. But when you feel fully resourced, you have so much to give to this world. And yes, it will look different than the cookie cutter version of how people typically build, as far as like just do it as fast as you can and like get it done. And like you're like, I can work for maybe 3 hours a day and then I need to go home because I'm like totally zapped. Great. Great. Show us what that looks like. Show us what it looks like to have your heart lead the way. That Cancer South Node is full of love. And that's really what it's about. It's not about how fast can you get to the top of the mountain. There's no there anyway, right? It's never about standing at the top of the mountain. It's about how you get there. The joy is in the journey. The love is in the journey. So if this is resonating with you, I have to tell you about the free retreat that I'm hosting March 16th through the 20th. We'll meet on Zoom for an hour each of those 5 days to do sessions around, what is it that you're dreaming of for your life? Like, what is the vision that you have for what you want your life to be, to mean, your legacy when you're no longer here, right? When your physical body is done on this earth and you leave behind your life's work. What is that? What does it look like? What got left behind from you? That's very much that Capricorn North Node of like you building your legacy one brick at a time, day by day by day, year by year, decade by decade, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And it's really about having a direction, having a goal, having a mission that's worth fighting for. And so again, if that sounds like of interest to you, you cannot afford to miss this free retreat. If the dates of the retreat have passed, no worries. You can go through that same registration link and have the replays of those sessions sent straight to your email so that you can still take advantage of what was offered there. Until next time, Capricorn North Node, this has been my pleasure. I do hope that you continue to take really good care of your beautiful love-filled selves. And to give that love to the world at every opportunity that you feel capable. Hopefully I'll see you soon. Until next time. Bye-bye. Hello, Aquarius North Node. Welcome to your reading, or 11th house North Node, either way. For Mercury's extended stay in Aries, I see sparks of new clarity happening for the entire collective. But for Aquarius North Node, I specifically see new ways to leave small ego behind by seeing your larger role and how it serves the highest good of the all. So that Aquarius Leo axis, Leo is the small ego, Aquarius is the super ego, or the ego of the collective soul, the version that says we are all in this together, okay? Like you're another me, I'm another you. We all have a part to play. For whose benefit? Everyone's. So it's never about one individual person, where the small ego is all about the one individual person. So that fire south node, that Leo south node, absolutely has strength, courage, creativity, boldness, all at the ready to whip out at any time. And how are you channeling that energy? Right? So during this time of Mercury's extended stay in Aries, Mercury in Aries is going to be trining your Leo South Node. So I think most likely you're going to have new mental clarity around the ways that you are using the power of your life force energy for your own benefit, right? Like that South Node revealing like kind of what are the patterns that you came to grow out of? What's the karma that you're here to heal in this lifetime? And what, not that we can ever really leave behind our own ego. It's in there. As long as we're in a physical vessel, we're going to have a small ego. We're going to have that part of self that is in it for the best interest of self. But with the Aquarius North Node, you're also trying to develop your view of the superego and what is it that, really humanity and even the planet as a whole needs from you. If you don't show up and do your part, nobody does that part. So what is that part? The other North Nodes so far have gotten tarot readings, and as you can see, I'm in a slightly different location finishing this up, and I don't have those cards with me, but I did have archetype cards, and I'll take it as a sign from source that this is the message that you're meant to get, and I love these cards for you guys. So I have 4 archetype cards that are really meant to help the Aquarius North Node to widen out into your role that serves the highest good of the all, and the first one is the Messiah. So very fitting as far as like you absolutely have a role to play here for the highest good of the all. The light side of the Messiah is serving humanity with humility, that like you have gifts out the ass. Okay, if we can go so far as to say it like that. And like, are you giving them for the good of the all? Or the shadow side of the Messiah, excuse me, is the exaggerated belief that you are the only means through which a cause can succeed. And I love that it puts it, like, uses that word, the cause, because that's ultimately what Aquarius is focused on, is like not the I, it's focused on the we, the collective cause of why we would even work to share our gifts in the first place. It's so that other people can suffer less. It's so that the environment can stay alive a little bit longer. Like, there's all kinds of causes that may feel close to your heart that you personally want to contribute your life force energy to. The next card that you got is the Virgin, which again, I think is very fitting. And so the light attribute is maintaining symbolic purity of heart and spirit. And the shadow attribute is fear of intimate union. And I think with this one, how I take that as far as the Aquarius North Node goes is like Aquarius is a very pure energy. It is that super ego. It's the collective consciousness. There's no hidden motives or your own personal agenda that you're trying to serve. It's like, no, I literally want to be of pure service to whatever cause I'm devoting myself to. And the next card that you got is the Queen. And so the Queen, the light attribute, is radiates the regal feminine, uses her benevolent authority to protect others. And the shadow side is becomes arrogant when authority is challenged, controlling, and demanding. And so how I take this, and it's even got the red color that goes along so well with your fire south node, is like, you know, when I hear Leo south node, I think royalty. I think like your past lives had to do with you being in a position where you literally were in control. You were the authority figure. You were the decision maker. You were the lawmaker. You got to decide and then have carried out what other people should do. You were in charge. And the thing about it is like at this point, having that Aquarius North Node, like basically I see it as you came with those gifts of knowing how to be an authority, knowing how to be in charge, knowing how to like carry yourself as like, yeah, I'm important, right? Like not everybody knows how to do that. And that may sound like, oh, conceited or selfish or self-centered or whatever, like Leo South Node can probably get a pretty bad rap sometimes. But those fire South Nodes, they have such passion and courage and boldness, like again, just at the ready to share at a moment's notice. And it just comes so naturally to you that, again, you can transfuse that benevolent authority into whatever cause you want. Whatever is important enough to you to devote your life force energy to, you can channel it into it. You can believe with the conviction of your soul that we have to find a solution to this. And I know I can, because I'll just wave my queen magic wand and we'll make it happen, right? And so again, it's not about like stepping down from authority or like relinquishing the throne even. You may be someone who uses your voice, who uses your platform, but it always is going to come back to whose benefit are you serving? Are you there for your own small ego? Like you want millions of followers, you want millions of dollars, or are you using your life force energy to support the highest good of the all? And the karmic pattern of that Leo South Node is that when you're in it just for you, shit's gonna blow up in your face every single time, to make sure that you start sending your power into the cause that is what you came here to work on, that Aquarius North Node. And on the flip side of that, like I think it's quite possible that like this extended stay of Mercury in Aries, it's going to be sextiling your Aquarius North Node. So there's a harmonious relationship, a supportive relationship of sending these new ideas towards that Aquarius North Node of like, where are you supposed to show up? What questions are you supposed to ask? What thoughts are you supposed to share? What opinions are you supposed to share? Mercury in Aries is very opinionated. And so again, it's like if your intention is pure, the Virgin, right? Symbolic purity. Like if your intention is pure, there is nothing that can stop you. If you are here 100% to serve the collective consciousness, the karmic pattern of that is reward, 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 reward. Like, you are here to do good in the world on a big scale, much bigger than just you being served. And the thing about it is like, when you will turn your powers to the good of the all, you will be served in that process, because guess what? You're part of the all. Okay? So it's like, there's this, actually, this is funny. This is a scene from the end of the beginning of the last Harry Potter movie, the 8th movie. At the beginning, they go to Gringotts. If you've never seen it, it really doesn't matter. But like, there's a dragon being kept in the basement of Gringotts, and what ends up happening is that they get stuck down there. The main characters, Harry and Ron and Hermione, they get stuck down there, and they need to find a way out. And it is only because Hermione is like, them keeping that dragon down there, that's barbaric. Like, look at the suffering of this creature. And so when it came time to like find their way back to freedom, her idea of how is she going to get herself free is to jump on the back of the dragon, zap the dragon's chain with her wand, right? She uses her power to set the dragon free, and the dragon carries them all to safety, to freedom. And so it is never about how do you personally get yourself into the situation you want to be in. You use your power to free and liberate as many others as you can, and it's through them in their own freedom that they will carry you back to your own freedom. And the very last archetype that you got is the warrior. Again, unfucking stoppable. The light attribute of the warrior is strength, skill, discipline, and toughness of will, heroism, stoicism, and self-sacrifice in conquering the ego. Like, that is such a perfect card for the Aquarius North Node. The shadow side is trading ethical principles for victory at any cost, indifference to the suffering inflicted on others. Right? Like, and if you think about that in the context of what we've been talking about, like, you can't serve the highest good of the all while doing shady practices or like taking advantage of certain groups for the benefit of other groups, like, you know, steal, like, you know, reverse Robin Hood, like steal from the poor to give more to the rich. Like, that's going to blow up in your face, because that's not serving the highest good of the all. Somebody's losing in that equation. So a net positive effect of using the strength, skill, discipline, toughness of will that you have to serve everyone, right? To bring light and clarity and strength to causes that need them. Like, I think about the underdog. Like, that is where, like, actual Robin Hood might have been an Aquarius North Node. We'll never know, but that's your reading, Aquarius North Node, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If this resonates as far as like how to take the natural strength and gifts that you have and channel them into the highest good of the all, I have to tell you about the free retreat that I'm hosting March 16th through the 20th. We're going to meet an hour each day on Zoom and come together around what is it that your soul came here to live? What is your unique mission in this lifetime? And what is the resistance that is holding you back from that? How are you getting in your own way? So again, that's happening March 16th through the 20th. If those dates have already passed or you can't make it to those sessions, you can go through that same registration link and find your way to the replays of those sessions so that you can still take advantage of what's there for you. I am so excited to be offering this during this extended stay of Mercury in Aries. I think this is going to be a powerfully healing portal for us all, and for us all to be able to step even more fully into sharing the gifts that we came here to give. Aquarius North Node, this has been my pleasure. I hope to see you soon. Until next time, take such good care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye. Hello, Pisces North Node or 12th House North Node. Welcome to your reading for Mercury's extended stay in Aries. And the new sparks of clarity that are coming, I think, for Pisces North Node are new ways to surrender and allow the 3D to be what it be's. You know, like, this physical world is what it is. The divine will always have its way with us. And how smooth of a ride is that for you? And you can know how much resistance you're putting up by how smooth of a ride it is, right? Like if you go with the flow of what the divine is doing, then you're having a great time no matter what. Everything is a gift. Every single moment. Didn't work out? Good. Plans changed? Great. Never been better. Got sick? Awesome. You know, like the divine puts us in the right place at the right time every single time. And so it's really a matter of how much control are you trying to exercise over the 3D reality. And I think Mercury in Aries goes along really well with this concept because it's very spontaneous, very impulsive. Get an idea, act on an idea. It's all happening at lightning speed. And that's really the best when it comes to Pisces North Node, because that Virgo South Node wants to make a plan, wants to have it be 1,000 points to make sure we got turn by turn directions exactly where we're trying to go, and wants to have a backup plan and wants to constantly use our imagination to think of worst case scenarios so that I can plan for it and be prepared for it and just imagine what would be possible if instead you used your imagination for best case scenario, or what is the dream version of what you want to have happen, right? Our imagination is our most powerful tool in this life, and where are you directing it? And I think that Mercury in Aries, it's going to bring up a lot of ideas that like you hadn't planned for that. It's like we switch gears really fast. Things happen so fast that there is no time to think. There is no time to plan. You just got to go with your gut instinct. And the thing about it is at this point, like Virgo South Node would probably, like I said, be the first ones to tell you like, oh no, I got to have a plan. I got to be prepared. I love to be prepared. It's like, yeah, but you've spent so many lifetimes at this point being prepared that you're actually one of the most capable people to like act in the moment and just go on instinct. And so I have 2 archetype cards for you to like really drive this point home. And I love these. I love that they come out so fitting to each and every single one of these. The first card is the Judge. Okay. And like, again, let that be a reiteration of the point of like, you have lived through so much. You've been through so many like actual physical experiences of bringing things to life, trying to make things happen. Like you've done it so many times that your instincts are so well honed. And the light side of the Judge is balancing justice and compassion, managing the fair distribution of power. Like, again, you have such a honed instinct for what should happen or how things happen in the physical that, and with that Pisces North Node, that it really is a matter of like opening up into compassion. You don't need more plans. You need more compassion. You need more heart. And so the shadow side of the Judge, which I think is very fitting of the Virgo South Node, is offering only destructive criticism, you know? And again, I am a Pisces North Node. I am a Virgo South Node. So like when it says offering only destructive criticism, like that was me, you know, first 30 years or so. And sometimes I still get caught up in like, this could be better, this could be better, this could be better, this could be better, this wasn't good enough, this wasn't good enough, this wasn't good enough, but like, that's where the compassion comes in and the trust in the divine comes in of like, it's always going to be what it needs to be. And so how can we have compassion for ourselves in that process and for other people, and to not get so caught up in trying to force it into our own preconceived notion of what it should be, and instead have more allowing and more compassion for what it is and operate inside the moment using our instincts. Because as a Virgo South Node, your instincts are badass. They are like so well honed. Like you don't need a plan. You can literally show up and just operate and outperform most other people. And like Virgo South Node gets into trouble when you try to plan, because then you're so caught up in trying to make it happen and make it happen according to plan that like actually your anxiety gets in the system like static and just like short circuits everything. So the best thing you can do is like open up and go with the flow, which is exactly what Mercury in Aries is all about. It's like, hey, spontaneous, like what idea is occurring to you in this moment? Great, let's do that. The second card is the Mentor, which again, I think is very fitting considering Virgo is like all about mentorship, like having a mentor, somebody that can teach you, and then also eventually growing into being a mentor, someone who's there to pass along knowledge and skills to other people, which is the light attribute, passing on wisdom and refining a student's character. And the shadow is the inability to allow the student to move on to the role of master or imparting false instruction. And again, I think that goes back to the judge archetype as far as like, you know, getting so critical about the actual like action steps that are being taken instead of focusing on like really you're there to develop the student's character, the character. So it's not about making the action perfect. It's about the student having integrity, the student having their own character, their own ability to have their own instincts, their own trust of themselves. Like that is definitely the shadow of the mentor, is like, I need you to stay my student forever because you being my student gives me my identity of being the teacher. And at that point, you're there for your own ego purposes instead of growing that individual that's standing in front of you. So Mercury in Aries, I think, is going to give us some opportunities to see where are we still clinging to trying to make our life like fit a certain plan or a certain preconceived idea of what it should be. And it's going to open us up more into some new ideas to play with, to go with the flow with, to possibly be dropped in the middle of a situation where there's not only not a backup plan, there's not a first plan. And actually what you end up seeing is that your instincts are rock solid and like you really don't need a plan in 99.9% of situations. By all means, like you always need to do what feels right to you, but as a Pisces North Node, one of the most evolutionary things you can do is play with showing up unprepared and letting your instincts carry you through the moment and watching how, you know, you couldn't have planned for it anyway. The things that actually happened and what's needed from you in the moment were so far outside the realm of anything you could have planned for, and the way it worked out was so much better than anything you could have imagined. So I think that's what's opening up for Pisces North Node in this time. If that sounds fun to you, if you're someone who like really wants to play with your edges and like grow and see yourself evolve in this lifetime, I have got to tell you about the free retreat that I'm hosting March 16th through the 20th. We'll meet for an hour each day on Zoom and play with this around like, who were you born to be? What is the evolution that your soul came here to make in this lifetime? And what are the ego attachments, the resistance that is standing in the way of that? The link to join that is in the description. If those dates have passed, you can also go through that same link to get access to the replays so you can still take advantage of what's there for you. Pisces North Node, this has been my pleasure. I love connecting with my people, my fellow Pisces North Nodes. Take a second, like the video. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you'll take really good care of yourselves. Until next time, bye.